Chapter 1222. A great demon that had lived for countless years was sucked into the mountain and river cauldron by Gu Fei. Then, the primordial chaos chi in the mountain and river cauldron directly refined the great demon. The primordial chaos chi was the ancestral chi of heaven and earth. A trace of it could crush an ancient being. Even if a sage was sucked into the mountain and river cauldron, he would not be able to withstand the obliteration of the primordial chaos chi. The old demon perished, and an ancient bell flew out of the mountain and river cauldron. Although Gu Fei killed the old demon with the mountain and river cauldron, he did not destroy the ancient bell. This ancient bell was an ancient weapon. It was a magic treasure refined by an ancient mighty figure and had great power. Although Gu Fei could not use it, he could give it to others. Gu Fei calmly put away the mountain and river cauldron and the ancient bell, then rushed in another direction. At this time, the Tao body that Gu Fei had evolved with the 3 Pure One secret technique had already fought with another great demon, causing a part of heaven and earth to collapse and shatter. Boom! Gu Fei's Tao body displayed the flawless 5 elements fist, attracting the power of the 5 elements of heaven and earth. The 5 elements' true power in his body was vast and mighty, as if there were 5 small worlds revolving around him. Every punch he threw out attracted the powerful and ferocious 5 elements' true power. Each punch shattered the void of heaven and earth, forcing the old demon to retreat. Swoosh! The green saber light flashed across the sky. The old demon, shrouded in green demonic light, was fighting desperately. He did not hesitate to consume his true essence to activate the bronze saber in his hand, wanting to cut down Gu Fei's Tao body. However, Gu Fei's Tao body was equivalent to Gu Fei's real body. There was almost no difference between it and the real body, and it could display all the great techniques of the real body. There was Tao rhyme flowing under the Tao body. This was a phenomenon that would only occur when the immortal Tao divine technique was displayed to its limit, drawing a trace of Tao power between heaven and earth. Gu Fei's Taoist body used the 8 desolation steps and moved quickly in the void. He dodged the saber lights and approached the old monster with a strong will to fight. At this time, Gu Fei's real body also arrived, but he didn't attack immediately. Instead, he just stood aside and watched. His Taoist body was equivalent to himself, so it was equivalent to his real body attacking. However, Gu Fei's Taoist body didn't have a holy weapon. Even though he had the upper hand, it was still difficult for him to kill the old monster. After all, the old monster's bronze saber was also an ancient weapon. Clang! Gu Fei's Taoist body approached the old monster and directly clashed with the bronze saber in the old monster's hand. Sounds of metal clashing rang out, but the bronze saber failed to hurt Gu Fei's Taoist body. The flawless 5 elements fist technique caused the war saber in old Yarrow's hand to shake again and again. The ferocious power caused blood to flow out of old Yarrow's hands, which were gripping the saber, and the war saber nearly flew out of his hand. The human tribe's martial body is actually so powerful. The old monster was shocked to the extreme. He never thought that his opponent could fight endlessly with a Taoist body and even had the upper hand. Swoosh! A divine light rushed out from Gu Fei's body, and there was a scroll wrapped in the divine light. Gu Fei's Taoist body took the scroll and shook it. Rumble! The void trembled, and the scroll suddenly unfolded. A wave of the power of heaven and earth surged out from the scroll, and there seemed to be a world evolving on the scroll. This was the mountain and river diagram, a holy weapon. The holy aura emitted from the mountain and river diagram made the world lose its color. It was as if a saint had suddenly descended. What? The old monster was really shocked. His opponent had actually used a holy weapon. This was bad. He didn't think and immediately turned around to escape. However, at this time, the mountain and river diagram in the hands of Gu Fei's Taoist body had already unfolded. It expanded infinitely, enveloped the whole world, and sealed the void. A world of mountains and rivers emerged from the scroll, and the power of heaven and earth surged violently. It was as if a world was pressing down from the sky, and it directly sucked the old monster into the mountain and river diagram. There was no suspense. If one wasn't a saint, he was still an ant. The mountain and river diagram was a holy weapon, and the power of heaven and earth directly killed the old monster. After the old monster was killed by Ji Yufei's Taoist body, the bronze war saber also fell into the hands of Ji Yufei's Taoist body. This was an ancient weapon of the demon tribe. It was a bronze war saber, and it was branded with ancient demon tribe Taoist patterns. It was a demon saber refined by a great demon in ancient times. Ji Yufei's Taoist body flew towards Ji Yufei, and then it quickly shrank and disappeared between his eyebrows. After killing the two old monsters, Ji Yufei chased in the direction where He Tian disappeared. He Tian chased after the celestial eye demon emperor and walked into the depths of the Red Plains. In the depths of the Red Plains was the legendary place where saints were buried. It was said that ancient saints were buried there, and it was the most dangerous place in the Red Plains. No one dared to walk into the depths of the Red Plains. In the Red Plains, apart from the Red Land, there was also a blood mist that floated around all year round. The originally boundless Red Land would suddenly surge with a monstrous blood mist. Such changes came without warning and were unpredictable. In the depths of the Red Plains, the blood mist was steaming. Even though Ji Yufei had cultivated the martial path Heavenly Eye, he couldn't see far. The divine thoughts that he released were also greatly weakened in this place. The entire Red Plains was shrouded in an unfathomable power. Ji Yufei followed the traces left behind by He Tian and only chased for 500 kilometers before he found a headless corpse under a hill. Judging from the clothes of the corpse, it was the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor. The Celestial Eye Demon Emperor was actually dead. His head had been blown up, and his primordial spirit had been destroyed. His body and spirit had been destroyed, leaving behind only a headless corpse. Who killed the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor? Ji Yufei knew that this wasn't He Tian's method. If He Tian wanted to kill someone, he didn't have to blow up a person's head. Such a method was too bloody. Ji Yufei suddenly frowned. He sensed a strange fluctuation and hurriedly looked at the wound on the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor's neck. He saw a trace of black qi lingering around the wound on the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor's neck. It was not an ordinary black qi. Ji Yufei sensed the fluctuation of demonic power from the black qi. Could it be that the person who killed the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor was an expert of the demons? Did the experts of the demons also enter the Red Plains? Ji Yufei's eyes flickered. He hurriedly scanned his surroundings, but he did not find any fluctuations of demonic power. He Tian had also disappeared. Just as Ji Yufei was feeling bewildered, there was a sudden tremor under his feet. Then, the entire ground suddenly collapsed. At the same time, a large black hand directly grabbed out of the ground. A monstrous wave of demonic power spread between heaven and earth. This is. Ji Yufei displayed his extreme speed of 8 steps and soared into the sky, avoiding the black hand that had grabbed out of the ground. He had never expected that there would be a demon lurking nearby and attacking him. Demon? Ji Yufei stood high in the sky and stared coldly down below. The black hand dissipated in the void, and then a faint black figure appeared below. Human martial body? The blurry figure emitted 2 blood-colored evil lights and stared at Ji Yufei. This demonic figure could see through Ji Yufei's physique at a glance. Kill. Without any hesitation, Ji Yufei directly used a killing technique. A large golden hand rushed out of his right hand and then slapped down. Bam! The large golden hand shattered the void, and the vast power of the 5 elements shrouded the blurry demonic figure below. The demons were the archenemy of all the cultivators in the world. All the cultivators in the heaven realm would immediately attack a demonic cultivator if they saw one and would not bother to ask anything. This was especially true for the demons and the human clan. For countless years, the demons and the human clan had been in a situation where they would not rest until one of them was dead. Therefore, when Ji Yufei saw that it was an expert of the demons, he immediately attacked. Martial arts combat technique? An illusion of a divine demon rushed out of the demonic figure, and its demonic power was mighty. The divine demon made its move and directly raised its palm to meet the large golden hand. Boom! With a loud sound, Ji Yufei was sent flying by an extremely powerful force, and the demonic figure below was slapped into the ground by Ji Yufei's palm. Roar! A muffled roar was heard from the ground. Then, an extremely powerful demonic power erupted from underground, causing the entire area to shake. Swoosh! A figure with monstrous demonic chi rushed out from the ground. The demonic aura that made people's hearts palpitate immediately spread between the heavens and the earth. This was a demonic power that caused the color of the heavens and the earth to change. Yin-Yang seal of life and death. Jiyu Fei activated the yin and yang true force, and directly formed a seal with both hands, evolving a large seal with the power of yin and yang intertwining. This large seal had Tao rhymes circulating around it. Boom! The yin-yang seal descended from the sky and smashed towards the demonic figure that rushed up to the sky. The power of yin and yang was vast and mighty, and the void collapsed. Demonic chaos of heaven and earth. With a loud shout, the demonic figure unleashed a demonic killing technique, causing the entire void to suddenly distort. Then, Jiyu Fei's yin-yang seal smashed into the distorted void around the demonic figure. Jiyu Fei only felt that his yin-yang seal was guided away by a force. The yin-yang seal did not hit the demonic figure, and instead, its attack was almost reversed by the demonic figure. Jiyu Fei was extremely shocked. The demonic technique that the demonic figure used seemed to be somewhat similar to the chaotic secret art, one of the 9 secrets of immortal path. Both were used to guide and shift the opponent's killing technique, so that the opponent's killing technique could be used by the user. Could it be that this demon had also cultivated the chaotic secret art? Or could it be that he had cultivated a supreme demonic power that was comparable to the chaotic secret art? Sky Demon Saber. The demonic figure's battle intent was like a rainbow. He separated his hands, and a pitch-black arc-shaped saber light immediately appeared between his hands, and then slashed at Jiyu Fei. The pitch-black saber light was like a ray of death, destroying everything in its path. It emitted a demonic aura that made one's scalp numb, and the void was silently torn apart. Chapter 1223. The Celestial Eye Demon Emperor died, Hei Tian disappeared, and a mysterious demon suddenly attacked Jiyu Fei. All of this happened in an instant, which made Jiyu Fei feel great danger. Swoosh! The arc-shaped Sky Devil Saber cut through the void and suddenly slashed in front of Jiyu Fei. It was so fast that Jiyu Fei's heart skipped a beat. Jiyu Fei did not dare to neglect. His right hand emitted a bright golden light, and his whole palm became like a divine hand cast from fine gold. The big golden hand directly met the Sky Devil Saber's saber radiance. The power of metal was vast, and the big hand shook the void of heaven and earth. Clang! The sound of metal clashing was heard. Jiyu Fei's big golden hand fiercely slapped the pitch-black demon saber's saber radiance. It was like 2 pieces of peerless divine iron colliding, and ripples visible to the naked eye appeared in the void. What? The hazy demonic shadow hidden in the devil chi saw this scene and could not help but be shocked. No one had ever dared to fight against his Sky Devil Saber with flesh and blood. Is the human tribe martial body really that strong? In the devil chi, there was an extremely weak wave of divine thoughts. The mysterious demon could not help but be shocked. Jiyu Fei could actually fight against the Sky Devil Saber's saber radiance with his bare hands. The clanging sound was endless. Jiyu Fei's big golden hand constantly collided with the arc-shaped Sky Devil Saber's saber radiance, and actually blocked the Sky Devil Saber's saber radiance. Swoosh! The faint demonic shadow rushed over, and a black demon saber floated in the devil chi, emitting a demonic aura that made the world tremble. Holy weapon! Jiyu Fei was taken aback. The devil saber floating in the devil chi made him feel a great sense of danger, as if there was an ancient devil sleeping in the devil saber. Swoosh! Jiyu Fei did not hesitate. He immediately used the desolate steps and retreated. This demon saber was most likely the real Sky Demon Saber, a demonic weapon refined by the great sage of the ancient demons. Although it wasn't an extreme demonic weapon, it still had the power to destroy heaven and earth. The demonic shadow in the devil chi was like a shadow following the body. The floating black demonic saber vibrated, and a trace of demonic power came out from the demonic saber. The demonic blade seemed to be awakening. Jiyu Fei took out the 2 ancient demon weapons that he had just obtained from the 2 old demon emperors. He displayed the cultivation method of the two old demon emperors and urged the two ancient demon weapons forward. Clang! The ancient bell rang, shaking out the heavenly sounds of the great Tao, shattering an area of the void, enveloping that demonic figure within the demonic energy. The destructive power was vast and mighty. Buzz! The black saber vibrated, and a circle of pitch-black demonic light spread out from the demonic saber. Then, the ancient bell that shrouded from the sky immediately cracked. The next moment, boom! With a loud sound, the ancient bell shattered into thousands of pieces, shooting in all directions. Each piece pierced through the void. When the black saber shattered the ancient bell, the bronze saber's attack also arrived. Swoosh! The cyan saber light rushed thousands of feet, like a cyan dragon, rushing towards the mysterious demon in the devil chi. In the saber light, there were ancient demon patterns faintly visible. The mighty figures of the severing path could already evolve their own divine patterns of the great Tao. The divine weapons refined by the mighty figures were all branded with the divine patterns of the great Tao. Although it was only the embryonic form of the Tao pattern, it could also attract a trace of the power of the great Tao to bless the divine weapon of the mighty figure, multiplying the power of the divine weapon. This strike of Jiyu Fei's was even more powerful than the strike that the old demon emperor had unleashed with all his strength. The cyan saber light illuminated the entire blood-red world. However, under the demonic light that burst out from the black saber, the cyan saber light was directly annihilated in the demonic light. There was no suspense at all, the disparity in strength was too great. The bronze saber shattered in Jiyu Fei's hand, losing all its spiritual chi and turning into thousands of pieces of scrap metal. This shocked Jiyu Fei so much that he retreated again. The divine weapon refined by the mighty figures of the severing path was simply like a child's toy in front of a true divine weapon. There was no comparison at all. Two divine weapons of the mighty figures were destroyed. Even Jiyu Fei could not help but feel pained. These were weapons refined by the mighty figures of the ancient times, and they had great power. The black demonic saber floated in the demonic energy. The demonic figure reached out and held the demonic saber in his hand. The demonic aura that emanated from the demonic saber immediately multiplied. Buzz! The demonic saber was vibrating as if it had a life of its own. Many demonic patterns of the great path appeared on the demonic saber, and traces of demonic power lingered around it. The might of a demon saint appeared between heaven and earth. The demon saint was a saint among demons. It was an existence that could compete with the saints of the human clan and the demon saint of the demon clan. This demonic saber was definitely the weapon of a demon saint. Jiyu Fei could not help but change his expression when he sensed the might of the demon saint. "Who are you?" Jiyu Fei stared at the blurry demonic figure in the demonic energy and asked in a deep voice. Was this person a great demon from the 100,000 demon mountains? "You don't even know me. Those who don't know fear nothing. No wonder you didn't run away as soon as you saw me, like that guy just now." A wave of divine thoughts came out from the demonic figure in the demonic energy. Hei Tian ran away. Jiyu Fei could not help but be startled when he heard this. Hei Tian chased after the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor and encountered this demon. The Celestial Eye Demon Emperor was killed by this demon. Hei Tian must have seen how powerful this demon was and fled immediately. This demon was so powerful that it was no wonder that even Hei Tian had to escape and the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor had to die. Humph! No matter who you are, I'm not afraid. Jiyu Fei's fighting spirit was like a rainbow. He was a natural warrior who was born to fight. He became stronger when he met strong opponents. Moreover, he still had many powerful trump cards that he had not used. He could already see that the other party was probably not here in person, but an incarnation. However, the black demonic saber was not easy to deal with. It was a real weapon of the demon saint. Good, you are indeed the successor of the martial ancestor. The demonic figure could not help but nod. The combat strength that Jiyu Fei had displayed surprised him, especially the indomitable momentum that Jiyu Fei had, which shocked him even more. Let me see how powerful the inheritance of the martial ancestor is, the demonic figure hidden in the demon chi said as he directly held the black saber in his hand and slashed at Jiyu Fei. The black saber light silently cut through the void, as if the entire world was cut in half. Whoosh! A scroll rushed out of Jiu Fei's dantian and then spread out in front of Jiu Fei. The scroll was filled with a mighty power of heaven and earth. In the hazy, the earth, mountains, and rivers appeared on the scroll. This was the heaven and earth mountain river diagram, which Jiu Fei had obtained after killing Dongfang Chen. In front of the mountain river diagram, the power of heaven and earth was mighty. The earth, mountains, and rivers gradually became clear, and a world was evolving inside. The black saber light silently slashed down and was absorbed into the mountain river diagram. The saber light raged inside the mountain river diagram, causing mountains to collapse and rivers to flow in reverse. It was as if the world was about to be destroyed. Even the sacred tool mountain river diagram could not erase the black saber light for a while, which made Jiu Fei secretly shocked. Was this demonic saber really the legendary sky demonic saber? Rumble, the mountain river diagram constantly trembled, and the power of heaven and earth surged. The world inside the diagram began to evolve again, and the black saber light was gradually erased by the power of the mountain river diagram. This is, seeing the mountain river diagram in Jiu Fei's hand, the demonic figure in the demon chi seemed to be very surprised. He seemed to know the origin of this human race sacred weapon. Even Jiu Fei did not know the origin of the mountain river diagram, but he knew that this was a human race sacred weapon refined by a human race saint. Because the mark of the great path in the mountain river diagram was in the shape of a woman, a peerless female saint of the human race. Jiu Fei did not erase the mark of the great path in the mountain river diagram. Mountain river diagram? Her sacred weapon? The demonic figure muttered to himself. He seemed to have thought of something and did not continue to attack Jiu Fei. Instead, he stopped. Swoosh! After obliterating the black saber light, Jiu Fei shook the mountain and river diagram, causing it to expand infinitely, covering the entire world. The mountains and rivers in the mountain and river diagram looked like they were about to rush out of the mountain and river diagram. The mountains and rivers all emitted the power of heaven and earth that made people's hearts palpitate. Such power could erase everything. Even if a saint-level existence was sucked into it, they would probably die. The power displayed by the mountain-river diagram could kill a saint. The power of the saint level was vast and mighty in all directions. The demonic figure in the demon chi woke up, and then directly slashed out. The demonic saber in his hand turned into a ferocious and terrifying demonic dragon, soaring into the sky and breaking into the mountains and rivers in the mountain-river diagram. The demonic dragon was too powerful. It directly rushed into the mountains and rivers in the mountain-river diagram. Wherever it passed, the mountains collapsed, the rivers flowed backward, and there was great destruction. Jiu Fei was shocked to the extreme. This demonic saber was too terrifying. He used all his strength to activate the mountain and river diagram, drawing the endless power of heaven and earth. It took him a great deal of effort to suppress that demonic dragon. However, cracks appeared in the mountain-river diagram, and the sacred weapon was damaged. This, Jiu Fei retreated 1,000 feet away. When he saw the cracks in the mountain-river diagram in his hand, he could not help but be shocked. The Sky Demon Saber. This was definitely the Sky Demon Saber refined by the great demons. Only the Sky Demon Saber refined by the great demons could damage the mountain-river diagram of heaven and earth. There were great saints among the saints. They were the saints among the saints. They were powerful to the extreme. The great Tao cultivated by such an existence was almost perfect. They were only one step away from the extreme saint who was invincible in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. The Sky Demon Saber refined by the great demons was only inferior to the extreme saint weapon. I know you have a powerful weapon in your body. If you don't use it now, you won't have a chance. The demonic figure did not hide his killing intent towards Jiu Fei. A martial artist at the great accomplishment level was invincible among the same level. If this human martial body was allowed to grow, it would be a disaster for the entire demons. In the ancient times, martial ancestor Wu Wu alone had slain countless Yantian demon lords that were born from the heavens and earth. He had slaughtered 1,000,000 miles away and dyed the earth red. He had almost wiped out the entire demon race. Chapter 1224. Amidst the devil chi, there was a black light flashing. It was a pair of devil eyes that had Tao rhymes circulating within. It was as though they could see through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In front of this devil, Jiu Fei seemed to have no secrets at all. Jiu Fei was a little uneasy. This demon was more terrifying than he had imagined. Swoosh! A sword light rushed out of Jiu Fei's dantian and was grasped by Jiu Fei. An extremely sharp sword chi fluctuation immediately spread out from the long sword in Jiu Fei's hand. This is, after the demon in the devil chi saw the long sword in Jiu Fei's hand, its expression changed as if it had seen the most incredible thing in the world. An unfinished sword made from the immortal material 9 heaven star iron. How is this possible? The mysterious demon saw the origin of the divine sword in Jiu Fei's hand. It was an unfinished sword made from the immortal material 9 heaven star iron. The 9 heaven star iron was an immortal material exclusive to the extreme path saint. An immortal material was a supreme material that could exist in the world forever. The divinity contained in this material would never disappear, and it was said that it could coexist with the world. The ancient extreme path saints, Qiongbai Luo, went to the Yellow Springs to find immortal materials as the carrier of the Great Path to refine an extreme path saint weapon. However, not all extreme path saints could find immortal materials. In ancient times, 1 or 2 famous extreme path saints did not leave behind an extreme path saint weapon. Even ancient extreme path saints had a hard time finding one. It was enough to show how rare and precious this immortal material was. This was something that even extreme path saints would covet. Extreme path saints were invincible in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. They were the most powerful existence in the world. It could be said that besides immortal materials, there was nothing else in the world that could tempt them. Jiu Fei couldn't help but frown when he saw that the mysterious demon hidden in the devil chi actually attracted the 9 heaven star iron. Very good. I didn't expect to have such a big harvest today. This trip is really worth it. The mysterious demon seemed very happy. It was as if the 9 heaven star sword in Jiu Fei's hand was already in his pocket. Jiu Fei sneered, but didn't say anything. He held the 9 heaven stars sword and stared at the terrifying demonic shadow in front of him. He didn't dare to be careless. I'm really happy today. I can leave your corpse intact. The mysterious devil directly approached Jiu Fei, the heavenly devil ominous blade trembling. Who do you think you are? The person who can kill me hasn't been born yet. The other party was simply too arrogant. He didn't seem to place him in his eyes at all. This caused Jiu Fei to feel somewhat angry. Even if the other party had the sky demon blade, it wouldn't be easy for him to kill Jiu Fei. Swoosh. The demon in the demonic chi didn't say anything else. Instead, he directly attacked Jiu Fei. The sky demon blade's light tore through the void, turning into a beam of deathlight that slashed towards Jiu Fei. A terrifying demonic aura that caused one's heart to palpitate spread out from the sky devil blade. It was unknown how many creatures this demonic blade had killed. The demonic aura was monstrous. There seemed to be a ferocious and terrifying demonic soul looming on the blade. Buzz! Jiu Fei shook his head, and the divine sword in his hand moved forward to block. A ring of transparent ripples immediately spread out from the divine sword, and 9 ancient characters vaguely appeared on the body of the sword. These were the 9 martial arts characters that Jiu Fei had imprinted on the divine sword when he was refining the 9 heaven stars sword. These were the imprints of the Great Path. This kind of imprint allowed the 9 heaven stars sword to gather the spiritual chi of heaven and earth on its own. Clang! The 9 heaven stars sword and the peerless demonic blade fiercely collided. The sword light and the blade chi tore through the void and shot out in all directions. The entire void of heaven and earth almost collapsed. Cracks in the space extended for dozens of miles. Jiu Fei was sent flying backward. He only felt that his hands were numb. He almost couldn't hold the 9 heaven stars sword tightly. The divine sword almost flew out of his hand. The mysterious demon hidden in the demon chi was also forced to retreat more than 10 steps by Jiu Fei's sword strike. An incomparably ferocious force came from the 9 heaven stars' sword and almost sent the peerless demon saber flying with a single strike. Human martial body is not bad, but you still have to die. After the mysterious demon stabilized his body, he continued to press forward. He was like a primordial demonic mountain, giving people a strong feeling of invincibility. The immortal divine material 9 heaven stars iron was indeed worthy of its reputation. It could actually withstand the peerless demonic blade, the Sky Devil blade, without being destroyed. This made the great demon secretly shocked. Boom! Monstrous demonic chi suddenly erupted. 1,000 feet tall demonic body appeared between heaven and earth. It was like a supreme demonic ancestor had descended on the earth. The whole area was shaking. Sky Devil incarnation. The mysterious demon used a supreme demonic technique and turned into 1,000 feet tall demonic body. This demonic body exuded a terrifying demonic aura. The whole area was shrouded by demonic chi, and the sky and earth darkened. Roar! The 1,000 feet tall demonic body roared to the sky. Its voice shook the vast sky. Even the floating blood mist in the surrounding area was dispersed. The earth trembled. It was extremely terrifying. Buzz! A demonic blade soared into the sky and fell into the hand of the 1,000 feet tall demonic body. The moment the peerless demonic blade was grasped by the demonic body, the blade light soared for hundreds of feet. A pitch-black death blade appeared in the hand of the demonic body. The power of the great path in the peerless demonic blade seemed to have been activated. Countless demonic patterns appeared on the blade. In the dark light, countless demonic shadows could be vaguely seen. Without any words, the Sky Devil incarnation directly attacked. The Sky Devil blade in its hand shattered the void. The blade light soared into the sky, and the power of the demonic path surged in the world. Just as the 1,000 feet tall demonic body slashed out with the blade, a strange fluctuation rushed out from Ji Fei. Then, Ji Fei's body also condensed into a 1,000 feet tall figure. Swish! The incarnation condensed from Ji Fei's body also slashed out with its sword. It had no intention of dodging at all. It was coming with its strongest attack. Seeing Ji Fei unleash the same grand art as him, the devil hiding in the darkness was startled. Ji Fei had the same power, but he was so weak that he was fighting against him. Ji Fei used one of the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, the chaotic reversal secret art. He imitated his opponent's technique and even drew out his opponent's power to counterattack. Boom! With an earth-shattering rumble, the entire scarlet ground shattered. The 1,000 feet tall demon incarnation disappeared, and so did Ji Fei's demonic body. Without any suspense, Ji Fei was forced back again. Damn it! Ji Fei used the 8 desolation steps to rush out of the energy storm. His opponent was too strong, even stronger than Yarrow Tian. Could this guy be a super antique among the demons? 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. The demon incarnation reappeared, demonic patterns faintly appearing in the void. A terrifying demonic aura swept through the world, intimidating everyone. The demon could tell that Ji Fei was using a supreme secret art of the immortal Tao that had been lost for countless years. Ji Fei was shocked. One had to know that the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao had already been incomplete since ancient times. No one had ever seen the complete 9 secrets of the immortal Tao, and no one had ever gathered all of them. Is this an ancient demon? Ji Fei was shocked. He could tell that this demon wasn't simple. He was definitely a super antique and seemed to know many secrets of the world. Swish! A beam of divine light shot out from Ji Fei's glabella and slashed at the mysterious great demon in front of him. This was a killing light of the great Tao. It contained the power of the great Tao and could injure a half-step saint. However, the demon merely waved the peerless demonic blade in his hand and the killing light of the great Tao from Ji Fei was shattered in the void. I didn't expect you to be proficient in the 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. I will extract your soul and obtain this supreme secret art. The mysterious demon's words were extremely cold. Not only did he have his eyes on the sword made from the 9 heaven star iron in Ji Fei's hand, but he also wanted Ji Fei's 9 secrets of the immortal Tao. Ji Fei wore the mountain and river painting and held the 9 heaven stars sword in his hand. His battle intent surged. Swish. He took the initiative and used the 8 desolation steps, displaying the extreme speed of 8 steps. He soared into the sky and stomped down on the demon below. A terrifying power surged under Ji Fei's foot. The demon punched down and the fist collided with Ji Fei's foot. The demon did not move an inch, but Ji Fei was sent flying and landed hundreds of meters away. It's useless. Your fate is sealed. The demon was very confident. It seemed that he already had Ji Fei in his grasp. The demon looked down on the world as if a supreme demon had descended. I'm invulnerable. How are you going to kill me? Ji Fei said in a low voice. As he said that, an unfathomable power surged out from his body. The rhythm of the great Tao circulated. Then, the void around Ji Fei began to ripple like water. The void was constantly changing shape under the influence of a strange power. In the face of absolute power, all immortal techniques are useless. The demon continued to press towards Ji Fei. At this time, Ji Fei felt a great danger enveloping him. It was as if he would die in the next moment. This made Ji Fei feel like he was being stared at by a dead man. What should I do? At this time, if he didn't use the divine weapon of Great Path, he would definitely not be able to fight against this demon. However, if he used the divine weapon of Great Path and couldn't kill this demon, he would be in great trouble. If this demon escaped, all the experts of the demons in the heaven realm would probably come after him. Once the news that he had a divine weapon of Great Path spread, the consequences would be unimaginable. The divine weapon of Great Path and the perfect imprint of the Great Path were enough to make all cultivators go crazy. Ji Fei had already thought of this. Therefore, he was not willing to use the divine weapon of Great Path until the last moment. Whatever, my life is more important. Chapter 1225. The mysterious demon was extremely powerful. With the Sky Devil Saber, he forced Ji Fei to retreat step by step. There were signs of him being suppressed, which shocked Ji Fei. No wonder the Celestial Eye Demon Emperor was beheaded and died tragically on the spot. Even the Hei Tian had to escape as soon as he saw this demon. This demon was too powerful. Moreover, what made Ji Fei's heart palpitate was that this demon did not seem to have come with his real body. There was no fluctuation of life, and it seemed to be an incarnation. Even an incarnation was so powerful. Could it be that this demon was actually a demon saint? Ji Fei felt a chill just thinking about it. In this world, sages were extinct. If there was really a demon saint alive in this world, it would be a catastrophe for all living beings in the world. Demonic chi was monstrous, and there were demonic patterns circling around the body. This was the power of the Great Path. There were 3,000 great paths, and the demonic path was also a kind of great path. Rumble, a pitch-black demonic hand directly slapped down on Ji Fei from the sky. The whole sky shook under the big hand, and the demonic power came down from the big hand, sealing a part of the world. Ji Fei, who was under the big hand, only felt that the surrounding void had solidified. Endless power came down from the side, as if there was an ancient demonic mountain pressing down on his body, making him almost unable to straighten his back. This was the incarnation of a true demon. Even if a half-saint came, he was afraid that he would be defeated. Roar! Ji Fei roared to the sky, and yin and yang qi rushed out of his body. There was a thunderous sound in his body, which was produced by the rapid flow of qi and yang in his body. Every pore of his body was spewing yin and yang qi, and the yin and yang true force intertwined in his body. There seemed to be a world inside his body evolving. The human martial body is indeed extraordinary. I can't let you live. The demon spoke, and the whole world was roaring. The voice penetrated the void and spread far away, dispersing the blood fog in the nearby area. If it was not in the Red Plains, the whole area would have collapsed. This demon, as the huge hand pressed down, Ji Fei's entire body emitted the sound of his bones vibrating. Even if he circulated his yin-yang true power with all his might, it was still difficult for him to contend against the demonic power of the demonic hand. The demonic hand covered the sky, and the entire world fell into absolute darkness. This kind of power had already surpassed the half-step saint realm. Ji Fei couldn't believe that there was such a powerful existence in this world. The strength of this demon body was probably infinitely close to the saint realm. Even the void between heaven and earth was sealed by the giant hand that came crashing down from the sky. It was impossible for Ji Fei to rush out from under the giant hand of the 1,000-foot-tall demon. Damn it! Even if Ji Fei was wearing the mountain and river diagram, it was difficult for him to resist this terrifying demonic power. Buzz! A rumbling sound rang out from Ji Fei's dantian. Then, the shadow of an ancient cauldron emerged from Ji Fei's body and enveloped him within it. Rumble! The cauldron vibrated. The flowers, birds, insects, fishes, and all kinds of ancient beasts seemed to have come to life. There seemed to be a world emerging from the cauldron. The power of the mountain and river cauldron was drawn out by Ji Fei. A terrifying fluctuation that could shake the 9 heavens and 10 earths spread out from the illusory cauldron. Bang! The pitch-black hand that came crashing down from the sky was immediately repelled. Endless demonic aura dissipated, and the entire world lit up again. What? The 1,000-foot-tall demon body was shocked to the extreme. Mountain and river cauldron, how is this possible? Although the demon's eyes could see that there was a great treasure in Ji Fei's body, it would never have thought that it was the extreme sacred weapon, the mountain and river cauldron. One should know that although the extreme saints left behind the extreme sacred weapons, they were scattered across the 3 realms and 6 paths. The extreme sacred weapon was branded with the perfect Tao of the extreme ancient saint. It was the carrier of the Tao. It was publicly recognized as the strongest sacred weapon in the world, and it had the terrifying power to destroy the world. Rise to the sky! At this moment, Ji Fei let out a low roar. His body once again erupted with a shocking aura. It was as if an ancient beast had awakened in his body. Boom! The yin and yang qi in Ji Fei's body erupted like 100,000 volcanoes at the same time, shining in all directions. The true power that emanated from his body suddenly became more than 10 times stronger. He was going to fight with all his might. Buzz! A purple-gold divine light rushed out from Ji Fei's body. In an instant, it strangled the demon body. The sword light fell and directly cut the demon body into 2. The purple-gold sword light turned in the void and fiercely slashed the peerless demon blade. The peerless demon blade could not resist the purple-gold sword light. Its demonic aura was dispersed, and it was sent flying tens of thousands of feet away. Roar! The mysterious demon roared, and his demonic power surged through the 9 heavens and 10 earths. He wanted to reform the 1,000-foot-tall demon body, but he found that it was a wound of the Tao. It was difficult to reform the demon body for a while. Another divine weapon of the Great Path? The shock of the mysterious devil was no small matter. This human martial body actually had 2 extreme Tao holy weapons. How was this possible? This was absolutely impossible. The divine weapon of the Great Path was not an ordinary instrument. It could be seen everywhere. For thousands of years, the divine weapon of the Great Path rarely appeared. Once it appeared, it would cause chaos in the world. With the appearance of the divine weapon of the Great Path, the whole world would often experience a dark and chaotic era. Ji Fei gathered all the true power in his body into this sword. After this sword strike, his whole body felt exhausted. The sword light flew backward and sank into his dantian. The 1,000-foot-tall demon body was cut in half. The mysterious demon also suffered great damage. The heavenly demon body almost collapsed, and the Taoist body was almost cut in half. Very good. I want the 9 secrets of the immortal path and the divine weapon of the Great Path. Although the mysterious demon was seriously injured and the heavenly demon body was almost cut in half, he was still extremely powerful. At this time, he could see that Ji Fei was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The extremely powerful force that erupted from Ji Fei's body was all poured into the sword. The time of the secret technique of rising to heaven had been used up in that instant. Ji Fei used the power of rising to heaven to launch an ultimate attack. Unexpectedly, the opponent was not killed. This was something that Ji Fei could never have imagined. Even a saint would not be able to withstand a single blow from the purple-gold divine sword. However, this mysterious demon had done it. Although his 1,000-foot demon body had been destroyed, the sky demon body did not dissipate. This demon still had great combat power. Swoosh! The sky demon blade flew back from afar and landed in the hands of the demonic figure. Then, without any hesitation, the demonic figure slashed at Gu Fei with the blade. Chapter 12:26. The demon's ferocious might was unparalleled. Although he had been struck by the purple gold divine sword, he still had unparalleled combat strength. With the sky demon saber in hand, he was like the reincarnation of the war demon. He attacked Gu Fei directly, and his saber almost split the sky and earth in half. Buzz! The illusion of the mountain and river cauldron outside Gu Fei's body vibrated. Ancient Tao patterns appeared faintly, and an ancient aura like the beginning of chaos spread out. Swoosh! The peerless demonic saber light soared for thousands of miles and slashed fiercely at the illusion of the mountain and river cauldron outside Gu Fei's body. The power of the demonic way surged and shattered the void between heaven and earth. The illusion of the mountain and river cauldron enveloped Gu Fei within it. Ancient Tao patterns appeared around Gu Fei's body, intertwining with the power of the Great Path and vast Daoist rhymes. The power of the Great Path blocked the peerless saber light. The terrifying saber strike from the sky demon saber was unable to break through the power of the mountain and river cauldron. However, the demonic power from the demonic saber penetrated the illusion of the mountain and river cauldron. Gu Fei suffered a great impact, and he vomited blood as he flew backward. A demonic power invaded his body, causing his blood and qi to be in a mess. The circulation of his martial way true force was almost cut off. If Gu Fei had not cultivated the emperor martial body, even with the protection of the mountain and river cauldron, he would have been killed by the saber strike. Gu Fei had just used the secret technique of rising to heaven and poured all the power of rising into the purple gold divine sword. He launched a fatal attack to kill the demon. Now, Gu Fei was in a state where his old power had been exhausted and he had not yet recovered. The power of the mountain and river cauldron was very limited, and he was directly sent flying by the demon's saber. Roar! Gu Fei roared angrily. He used all the power of heaven and earth in his body. Endless heaven and earth spiritual qi surged out from his dantian, between his eyebrows, and his heart, quickly nourishing his body. The aura of his body quickly became stronger. Buzz! The cauldron of mountains and rivers vibrated continuously, emitting a vast aura of the Great Path. Gu Fei guided the power of the cauldron of mountains and rivers into his body. Within a few breaths, the demonic power that invaded Gu Fei's body was immediately obliterated inside Gu Fei's body. Kill! Vast and mighty demonic qi covered the sky. The mysterious demon was enraged. He directly summoned a demonic cloud and displayed a supreme demonic might. Holding a peerless demonic saber, he rushed towards Gu Fei. This demon, Gu Fei couldn't help being startled when he saw this. This demon was extremely powerful, and the consequences would be unimaginable if he were to descend with his true body. Swoosh! Gu Fei used the 8 desolate steps and used the 8 desolate steps to quickly retreat. He used the power of the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself. Even so, he was still very wary of the Sky Devil blade. The peerless demonic blade refined by the great Saint Demons was not an extreme demonic weapon, but it was not something that Gu Fei could contend with because Gu Fei couldn't display the power of an extreme sacred weapon. One retreated and the other pursued. Soon, the two rushed out thousands of miles away. The black demonic cloud covered the sky and the earth. The mysterious demon was like a peerless demonic ancestor. His demonic might spread in all directions. Wherever he passed, the bloody mist floating in the scarlet plain was dispersed by the demonic qi. You can't escape. The mysterious demon was really angry. Who was he? The heavenly demon incarnation had almost been killed by a mere human martial body. This was simply a disgrace. Gu Fei didn't say anything. He used the 8 desolate steps. His speed was so fast that it was absolutely impossible to catch up with him. However, the speed of the demon was also extremely fast. He could actually catch up with Gu Fei. Undying Sky Devil Blade. The demon roared and attacked Jiu Fei again. The demonic blade in his hand bloomed with tens of thousands of demonic light. Each demonic light pierced through the sky and the earth. The terrifying power of the demonic path spread between the sky and the earth. Demonic inscriptions appeared on the demonic blade, interweaving with the power of the great path. It was as if a peerless demonic beast had awakened within the demonic blade, emitting a terrifying aura that caused all life in the world to tremble. "Go to hell!" the demon roared. Endless demonic chi surged directly between the sky and the earth. He used all his strength to slash with the strongest blade. In an instant, countless ancient demonic lines rushed out of the demonic blade. The lines quickly interweaved and a demonic blade that was thousands of feet long appeared between the sky and the earth. It slashed towards Jiu Fei in front of him. When Jiu Fei saw this scene, he was shocked. This was a sign that the mark of the great path in the demonic blade had been activated. The huge demonic blade was condensed from the power of the great path. Even a half-step saint could be killed with one slash. The great path demonic blade was extremely terrifying. It was like a heavenly blade that could destroy everything. It fell from the sky. Wherever it passed, the sky and the void were silently annihilated, leaving nothing behind. The blood fog in the area of thousands of miles was dispersed. Rays of sunlight fell from the sky. The mysterious power that had enveloped the Kai Yuan for countless years was actually broken. The blade chi covered the sky and the earth, covering Jiu Fei below. In the face of this earth-shattering blade, even with the protection of the mountain and river cauldron, Jiu Fei couldn't help but change his expression. This was the great path demonic blade. It was very difficult to resolve. Jiu Fei had to mobilize the power of the mountain and river cauldron with all his strength again. He made the mountain and river cauldron vibrate with the great path heavenly melody and emit the power of the great path to resist the great path demonic blade that fell from the sky. However, with Jiu Fei's current cultivation and strength, it was not easy to make the mountain and river cauldron vibrate with the power of the great path. Am I going to be forced to hide in the inner world by this guy today? Jiu Fei cultivated martial arts. He was born to be a warrior. He didn't want to retreat, but if he didn't hide in the inner world, he would probably die here today. At this critical moment, suddenly, a pitch-black stick stretched out from the distance. It directly blocked the great path demonic blade that was coming down. Clang! In a deafening sound, the great path demonic blade that fell from the sky was blocked by the black stick. The black stick not only blocked the great path demonic blade, but also knocked the great path demonic blade away. Seeing someone save Jiu Fei, the great demon in the demonic chi couldn't help but be shocked. The person who came was so powerful that he could knock the great path demonic blade away. This shocked the great demon. It should be known that the great path demonic blade was a blade condensed from the power of the great path. This was an attack of the power of the great path. It could kill half saints. Even saints could only retreat. The undying demon saint. A mighty silhouette appeared in the field. He was wearing black battle armor and held a black iron spear in his hand. He exuded an awe-inspiring aura. Even though he was standing there without moving, he gave off a powerful sense of oppression. In the demonic chi, the demon shadow held the sky demon blade. His figure was faintly discernible. He was shocked. This expert who suddenly appeared seemed familiar. Old Turtle. Chapter 1227. The old tortoise saved Jiu Fei with the black stick and confronted the mysterious demon in the devil chi. The two were at daggers drawn and could clash at any time. Immortal devil saint. The old tortoise stared at the figure in the devil chi and said coldly. His body emitted a golden chi and blood, which was the unique aura of the immortal martial body. An avatar of the immortal martial body? Seeing this, Jiu Fei couldn't help but come to a realization. It was not the real body of the old tortoise, but the avatar of the old tortoise's indestructible martial body. However, even if it was not the real body of the old tortoise, it was no different from the real body. This avatar was refined by the old tortoise's divine thoughts into the immortal martial body. It had been refined by the old tortoise for hundreds of years. As the old tortoise's cultivation increased, The power of the immortal martial body also increased. Ji Fei felt that the aura of the immortal martial body came from the same source as his emperor martial body. This was a martial body that could be said to be immortal. Within the body of the immortal martial body, there was a vast and boundless ocean of martial way true power. This was the strongest power contained in the martial body. Even though the soul of this ancient invincible martial artist had dissipated, this martial body still survived. Old Tortoise, Ji Fei wanted to say something but was stopped by the old tortoise. You step back first. It won't be too late to talk after I kill this guy. The old tortoise seemed to have figured out the origin of the opponent. Even with the black stick in hand, his face was still extremely solemn. He had already regarded the demonic figure in the devil chi opposite him as a formidable opponent. You are strange. You are not the owner of this body. The demonic figure called the immortal devil saint by the old tortoise seemed to be very surprised. He sensed the strangeness of the old tortoise's body. He had a strong body, but the divine soul in the body was very weak, which did not match the body. Humph. Stop pretending to be a god. If your real body was here, I might have some scruples, but now, I can't keep this heavenly demon incarnation of yours. The old tortoise's words were very cold. Who are you? The incarnation of the undying devil saint sensed the murderous aura of the old turtle, but the old turtle was not here in person. Therefore, the incarnation of the undying devil saint did not recognize the old turtle as a demon expert. The chi and blood of the indestructible martial body was too strong enough to cover up everything. No one could see into the body of the indestructible martial body, not even those who had cultivated the heaven's eye. The one who will kill you. Old Tortoise said no more and rushed forward with the black rod in his hand. He then smashed the demonic shadow in the devil chi. The heavy devil chi dissipated under his rod, and the golden chi and blood swept through the world. This strike shook the heavens and the earth, directly piercing through the void and shattering everything. Swoosh! The heavenly demon incarnation felt a great pressure and had no choice but to slash out with all his strength. The heavenly demon saber rushed out like a black demonic dragon rushing out of the saber. Bam! The black rod and the heavenly demon saber collided fiercely. A circle of visible ripples spread from the point of impact. Wherever the ripples passed, the void was directly annihilated. The indestructible martial body was extremely powerful, suppressing the world. Old Tortoise smashed the incarnation of the undying devil saint down from the sky with a single strike. The golden chi and blood illuminated the entire world. The incarnation of the old turtle was like a real indestructible martial body reincarnated, delivering the strongest strike. Even the powerful incarnation of the undying devil saint was completely suppressed by the incarnation of the indestructible martial body. Wow! Who the hell are you? The incarnation of the undying devil saint was enraged. He set off a monstrous devil chi and rushed up from the ground. The pitch-black devil saber silently cut through the void and slashed at the indestructible martial body. Humph! Old Tortoise sneered and smashed down with the rod again. Without any suspense, the black rod in the old turtle's hand was as heavy as an ancient sacred mountain. It once again shattered the heavenly demon saber's saber radiance and smashed the incarnation of the undying devil saint down again. Boom! The entire Red Land was shaking. The undying devil saint's incarnation that fell from the sky caused the ground to sink. A huge pit appeared on the cold Red Land. With the crater as the center, hideous cracks spread out in all directions. Nice. Ji Fei watched the battle from afar. He could not help but feel relieved when he saw the incarnation of the undying devil saint being suppressed by the old turtle. At this moment, a figure appeared out of nowhere and came to Ji Fei's side. This mysterious person was He Tian. Boss. He Tian stood behind Ji Fei. Why are you still alive? Ji Fei said impatiently when he saw He Tian. This guy would definitely run faster than anyone else when he was in danger. If it was someone else, I'm afraid they would not be able to escape. But who am I, He Tian? Even the undying devil saint would not be able to do anything to me. He Tian was very proud of himself. The undying devil saint. Ji Fei could not help but frown. A person who could be called the Undying Devil Saint was definitely not an ordinary person. This person probably had a great background in ancient times. This Undying Devil Saint is also an extraordinary person. Unfortunately, he is a demon, otherwise, I would be able to make friends with him. He Tian said with some regret. It turned out that this Undying Devil Saint was a great saint of the demons in ancient times. This great saint of the demons was extremely powerful. He once used the Undying Devil Blade to kill tens of thousands of miles. Within a day, he wiped out the 10 major tribes of Untainted Land, shocking the entire Untainted Land. Even the Supreme Saint of Untainted Land wanted to attack him. However, this Undying Devil Saint had received the news beforehand and hid in the demon area. At that time, the demon area was guarded by the Supreme Demon Venerable. Even the Supreme Saint of Untainted Land was not willing to step into the demon area to challenge the Supreme Demon Venerable. During the late period of Untainted Land, the world changed greatly. Even the Untainted Land collapsed. No one knew how many powerful existences had disappeared or fallen. However, unexpectedly, this great devil had fallen. He Tian knew the origin of this Undying Devil Saint. After he escaped, he tried to contact the old tortoise's indestructible martial body doppelganger. Then, the doppelganger of the old tortoise arrived and saved Jiu Fei. The old tortoise's indestructible martial body doppelganger did not enter the peerless tomb to fight for the Dao fruit. Instead, it guarded outside. The peerless tomb was a great formation of heaven and earth set up by the Supreme Ancient Masters. It was protected by the Supreme Formation. Even if the Supreme Saint of Untainted Land came, it would take a lot of effort to break this tomb. Even if the old tortoise and the others used the Supreme Saint weapon in the peerless tomb, it would be difficult for them to break it. After learning about the origin of the Undying Devil Saint from He Tian, Jiu Fei could not help but be shocked. The Undying Devil Saint was too powerful. An existence like the great saint of the demons could probably kill him with one finger. Chapter 1228. The golden chi and blood swept across the world, and a terrifying pressure almost collapsed the sky. The old turtle's indestructible martial body doppelganger was extremely strong. The black stick in its hand swept through the void, pierced through the world, and continuously smashed down the Undying Demon Saint doppelganger that rose from the ground. The Undying Demon Saint's heavenly demon doppelganger was also extremely strong, and it also controlled the peerless heavenly demon saber, but it was still beaten by the old turtle. Roar! The heavenly demon doppelganger roared again and again, setting off endless demonic chi. The pitch-black demonic chi shrouded the earth, and the demonic power spread in all directions, making people's hearts palpitate. Jiu Fei and He Tian were also shocked to see this scene from afar. Only the old turtle's indestructible martial body doppelganger could suppress this demon. Die! The black stick in the old turtle's hand turned into a destructive divine light, constantly smashing the saber radiance of the heavenly demon saber that rose from below, and the endless demonic chi dispersed. The terrifying demonic shadow was almost destroyed. I am immortal, no one in this world can kill me. The Undying Demon Saint's heavenly demon doppelganger roared. No matter how ferocious it was, it had to accept the reality at this moment. The indestructible martial body was too powerful, almost like the arrival of a martial saint. The mighty golden chi and blood of the indestructible martial body shook the heavens and earth, forming a terrifying domain. The old turtle seemed to be standing in a world formed by gold, and he was the only ruler of this world. Bang! The old turtle swept away the heavenly demon saber with his stick again, and then stretched out his hand and pressed down. A huge seal rushed out from his hand, emitting a dazzling golden light, and pressed down on the demonic shadow below. Even if you don't die, I'll still beat you to death. The old turtle used a great technique, activating the monstrous combat strength of the indestructible martial body, evolving a huge golden seal, and pressed down on the demonic shadow. Rays of golden light interweaved into mysterious and ancient Dao patterns, activating the power of the great Dao of heaven and earth. This was a Dao pattern. The demonic shadow seemed to be shocked at the sight of this huge golden seal, and directly dodged to the distance, as if it had some scruples and did not dare to take it head-on. A Dao pattern created by Jiu Taihuang? Which of the Grand Emperor's 9 sons are you? The demon shadow was the sky demon body created by the undying demon saint. With the memories of the undying demon saint, he was equivalent to another undying demon saint. He could see the origin of the Tao pattern of the golden seal. 9 deaths devil art, 9 deaths in 100 lives, 9 lives. Today, I will take one of your lives. The golden seal pressed down, and the power of the great Tao spread out in all directions. The indestructible martial body used the true power of the martial way to evolve the supreme power of the Tai Huang, sealing the heavens and earth in all directions, displaying a terrifying divine might, just like the attack of the Tai Huang seal. The power of the great Tao could cut through everything. It didn't matter how many lives you had. He really is one of the 9 sons of the Grand Emperor. He deserves to die. The 9 incarnations of the undying demon saint went all out. Demons and demons had been irreconcilable enemies since ancient times. During the era of Tai Huang, countless demons had died in the hands of Tai Huang. Buzz! The undying sky demon blade let out a deafening sound. Then, the pitch-black blade light shot up into the sky from the hands of the 9 incarnations of the undying demon saint like a pitch-black river. Boom! The golden seal and the terrifying blade light of the sky demon blade collided instantly. It was a great destruction. The void between heaven and earth was directly shattered by the mighty power. The ground within a radius of 10 miles was shaved off by several feet, and the earth sank. Even the mysterious power that enveloped the Kai Yuan could not seal this power. This was the collision of the power of the great Tao. Terrifying waves spread out from the Kai Yuan. Seeing this, Jiyu Fei and He Tian had to retreat. The old tortoise was extremely powerful. The blade light of the sky demon blade could not stop him. He smashed the blade light of the 9 lives demon body with a single strike, then instantly approached the 9 lives demon body and dispersed the demonic shadow in the demon chi with a single strike. This, Jiyu Fei could not help but be shocked when he saw this scene with his martial eyes of heaven. The undying martial physique was so powerful. This undying martial physique was definitely comparable to a great saint when he was alive. The combat power of the undying martial physique was monstrous. No matter how powerful one's magic power was, one strike from the undying martial physique would break it all. The peerless demon blade floated in the demon chi, emitting a terrifying demonic aura that could intimidate all living beings in the world. Tao patterns could be seen faintly on the blade. Although it kept clashing with the black rod, the demon blade remained undamaged. This surprised the old tortoise. It should be known that the inconspicuous black rod in his hand was a peerless divine material. The black rod contained a wisp of chaotic chi from the beginning of the world. It was a piece of chaotic divine iron, an immortal divine material. It was a divine item exclusive to extreme saints. Even with the old tortoise's current cultivation and strength, it was still difficult to refine the black rod in his hand. Dead! The old tortoise smashed the 9 lives demon body with one strike, but he still did not relax. A pair of golden divine eyes swept in all directions. The surrounding demon chi was dissipating. The demon shadow seemed to have been killed. However, the opponent was, after all, the 9 lives demon body cultivated by the undying great demon saint. How could it be killed so easily? It seemed too easy. It did not match the title of undying. I am undying. A faint wave of divine thoughts suddenly appeared in the void. The old tortoise's expression suddenly changed. The 9 lives demon body was indeed not destroyed. Without any warning, a vague figure appeared in the void. The faint and illusory demon shadow seemed to have walked out directly from the void. The old tortoise did not say anything. He directly rushed over and smashed the demon shadow with another strike. However, in just a few breaths, the demon shadow that was smashed by the old tortoise reappeared. Roar! The old tortoise's black hair danced wildly. He swung the rod with all his strength, smashing the entire void of heaven and earth. The demon shadow was directly swept into the destroyed void. However, what caused everyone to be dumbfounded was that when the shattered void was restored, the demonic figure appeared once again. The 9 lives undying demon body seemed to be truly indestructible. The demon body had some kind of undying imprint. Even if the demon body was smashed, it could still be reassembled. Jiu Fei and He Tian couldn't help but gasp when they saw this scene. The undying great demon saint seemed to have really cultivated a heaven-defying undying great demon technique. Damn it. I don't believe that you really can't die. The old tortoise was ruthless. He triggered the monstrous true power of the undying martial body. Golden true power erupted from his body. He used a great divine ability to support the golden battle domain of the undying martial body. The golden battle domain was a kind of combat technique of the undying martial body. There was a golden world inside. This was a great technique that opened up the void of heaven and earth. Rumble. Chapter 1229. The golden battle domain was a domain formed by the martial Tao true power of the undying martial physique. It was equivalent to opening up a world that belonged to the undying martial physique with great power. Once the battle domain was released, the undying martial physique would be the supreme god in the battle domain. It could control everything, and the Tao marks formed by the martial Tao true power could slay anything in the world. Swish. The dazzling golden Tao marks constantly flashed in the golden battle domain. The destructive power was enough to kill a sage. The demonic shadow that was sucked into the golden battle domain was directly slashed by the Tao marks without any suspense. Nothing was left. Rumble. The entire golden battle domain was shaking. The power of the Tao marks obliterated everything. The old tortoise was very careful. He used the undying martial physique to draw the power of the great Tao to support the golden battle domain and suppress everything. The demonic shadow was slashed cleanly. No one could survive such an attack. The undying demon saint's 9 lives undying demon body should also be destroyed. The old tortoise released a powerful divine sense to scan the surroundings. He couldn't sense any strange phenomenon. The undying demon saint's 9 lives undying demon body was truly destroyed. What 9 deaths demon art? What undying demon body? Aren't they all destroyed? The old tortoise was very disdainful. There was nothing in this world that was eternal. Even a powerful sage would fall. Even if the undying demon saint cultivated a heaven-defying demonic art and was known as undying, it wasn't absolute. He put away the golden battle domain. This combat skill was inadvertently triggered by him. When the golden true power of the undying martial physique operated to the peak, it would evolve into such a great technique. Although the undying martial physique was just a body, it had become an avatar of the old tortoise after being controlled by the divine sense. However, the undying martial physique would often instinctively resist when it was threatened. This was a physical instinct. The undying martial physique had experienced hundreds of battles. The instinctive protection of the physical body made the old tortoise gasp in amazement. It was hard to imagine that there was such a magical physical body in this world. In the void, the undying demon blade was floating. Amidst the lingering demonic chi, ancient demonic patterns could be vaguely seen on the blade. The devil Tao was also a type of great Tao. Devil patterns were a type of Tao pattern of the devil Tao. The sky devil saber emitted a demonic aura that could cause one's heart to palpitate. It was as if it could demonize everything that got close to it. The demonic aura could affect the minds of cultivators. The old tortoise put away the black rod, and was about to use his great technique to put away the undying Tianmo blade. But at this moment, the undying sky devil saber suddenly buzzed. Then, it turned into a pitch-black blade light in the void and slashed at the old turtle. A soul fluctuation emanated from the demonic saber. What? Old tortoise was taken aback. The demonic saber's saber light was extremely fast. In just a flash, the saber chi had already attacked him. A stream of demonic power directly drilled into old tortoise's body. Boom! The golden aura suddenly erupted, and old tortoise seemed to have turned into a golden divine sun. The power of martial arts spread between heaven and earth, and the terrifying coercion made the world pale. Every pore on old tortoise's body was gushing with golden aura. The attacking demonic power was immediately dispelled by the golden aura emanating from old tortoise's body. Old tortoise directly stretched out a big golden hand and grabbed at the sky devil saber that was slashing down. Old tortoise's big hand continuously collided with the sky devil saber. The indestructible martial body was extremely strong, and it could resist the undying sky devil saber refined by the great sage of the demons with its bare hands. In the distance, Jiyu Fei saw this scene and was shocked. He could already feel the soul fluctuation coming from the sky devil saber. How was this possible? Although the great sage of the demons was only one step away from cultivating a perfect great Tao, it was difficult to refine a sacred weapon of the great path with soul if one was not an extreme saint. The reason why the great sage of the demons was that there was a soul in the weapon. In a sense, the sacred weapon of the great path was a sacred weapon with life. No matter how heaven-defying the undying demon saint was, it was impossible for him to refine a sacred weapon of the great path with soul. However, at this time, the soul fluctuation coming from the undying sky devil saber was real. Could it be that this demonic saber had transformed into a sacred weapon of the great path? I see. He Tian, who was beside Jiyu Fei, opened his yin-yang divine eyes. His left eye was pitch black, and there was a vague black moon floating in it, while his right eye emitted a bright white light, and a divine sun rose in his right eye. The power of yin and yang intertwined and generated Dao rhymes, attracting a trace of Dao power, which allowed He Tian to see a subtle detail that others could not see. Raw. You actually refined a demon soul into this demonic saber, Old Tortoise roared. The undying demon saint had refined a demon soul from the 9 lives demon body into the undying sky devil saber. No wonder the old tortoise could not really kill the undying demon saint's 9 lives demon body despite using all kinds of methods. The undying demon saint was an extraordinary figure among the demons. He created the 9 deaths demon technique and cultivated the 9 lives undying demon body through 100 reincarnations. This great sage devil had 9 lives, and as long as one of them survived, he would be able to cultivate another 8 lives. The 9 deaths devil art was known as the number 1 devil art, second only to the ultimate devil art. The undying sky devil saber and the old tortoise's hands collided 1,000 times in an instant. Old tortoise's hands felt bursts of pain. Although the peerless demonic saber refined by the great demons could not break the defense of the indestructible martial body, it still made the indestructible martial body feel pain. The demonic patterns of the undying sky devil saber were constantly destroyed by the old tortoise's hands, and they kept buzzing. Swoosh! After a head-on collision with the old tortoise, the pitch-black demonic saber soared into the sky, broke through the void, and rushed into the chaotic void, escaping in an instant. Where do you think you're going? The old tortoise roared angrily, and the whole world seemed to collapse because of his roar. He directly punched out, pierced through the void, and chased after the undying demon. This, Jiyu Fei and He Tian could not help but be dumbfounded. The old tortoise was too fierce. It actually chased into the chaotic void. If they were lost in the chaotic void, they would never be able to get out. The broken void quickly reorganized, and the aura of the indestructible martial body completely disappeared between heaven and earth. After this battle, the corpse of the celestial eye demon emperor was completely destroyed, and his body and soul were destroyed. Among the demons, the celestial demon lineage could be said to have suffered a heavy blow. Just as Jiyu Fei and He Tian were about to leave, a mighty holy aura came from afar. Then, a figure separated the layers of blood fog, and in a few steps, came close. A semi-sage. Chapter 1230. Jiyu Fei and He Tian couldn't help but feel a surge of saintly might coming from afar. Let's go. Without any hesitation, He Tian threw out the formation platform and rushed up with Jiyu Fei. They used the platform to teleport away from this place. Boom! At this moment, a huge purplish-green hand stretched out from the sky and grabbed at them. The huge hand covered the sky and shattered the void, but even so, it couldn't stop Jiyu Fei and He Tian. Count yourselves lucky. With a cold snort, the huge purplish-golden hand disappeared into the void. Then, a white figure appeared high in the sky, looking down. The aura of a demonic saint filled the sky and earth, shaking the world. This was a demonic half-saint. Before the demonic saint made its move, the formation platform had already emitted rays of divine light that pierced through the void. Jiyu Fei and He Tian borrowed the power of the formation platform to escape into the chaotic void. Ji Yufei and He Tian traveled through the void and instantly disappeared. In the next moment, their eyes lit up and they rushed out of the void. However, as soon as they emerged from the void, they were immediately dumbfounded. They saw a bloody mist all around them, making it impossible to see far. Even with the heavenly eye, they couldn't see clearly. There seemed to be an unfathomable power interfering with everything in the world. Ji Yufei felt that even his divine sense was suppressed, almost unable to pass through his body. Below Ji Yufei and He Tian was a bottomless crack. Blood-colored mist constantly gushed out from the crack, like blood that couldn't be dissolved, causing one's heart to palpitate. Oh no! Ji Yufei's heart skipped a beat when he saw this scene. They had actually appeared at the entrance to the Land of Saints. The Land of Saints was under the crack in the ground. There were many famous danger zones in the heaven realm. These places were extremely dangerous and no one would easily set foot in them. One of these danger zones was the Saint burial ground under the Scarlet Plains. Legend had it that there were ancient saints buried there. When did the land of the buried saints appear? How did it form? Did saints really die? There were many things that could no longer be investigated. The secrets of ancient times seemed to have disappeared over the endless years. Some people said that the entire Scarlet Plains was dyed red by the blood of the saints, and that the blood-colored mist was formed by the blood of the saints that hadn't dissipated since time immemorial. How did I end up here? He Tian's expression changed when he saw his surroundings. The Land of Saint Burial was a forbidden ground in the heavenly realm. It opened once every 10,000 years, and who knew how many geniuses had been buried there. He was proficient in matrices and was good at seeing the general trend of heaven and earth. However, He Tian was actually unable to see the general trend of heaven and earth in the Land of Saint Burial. It was difficult for him to determine. It was as if the power of the Great Path was interfering. No one could divine what dangers there were in the Land of Saint Burial. Boom! Just as Ji Yufei and He Tian were bewildered, a terrifying aura surged up from the crack in the ground below, causing Ji Yufei and He Tian's minds to tremble. They almost fell from the sky. Extreme Saint Might. He Tian was shocked to the extreme. The aura that came from below made his soul tremble. He almost wanted to kneel down. This was too terrifying. This aura that could make even heaven and earth submit beneath its feet. Apart from the extreme saint realm, there seemed to be no one who could trample the great path of heaven and earth under their feet. It's just a wisp of aura. I'm afraid that even an advanced Ren Huang wouldn't be able to withstand it. Ji Yufei was also shocked. He had an extreme saint weapon to protect him, but he still felt great danger. It was as if there really was an invincible saint sleeping below. He Tian also had an almighty divine weapon to protect him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to withstand this aura. The Land of Saint Burial, there might really be an extreme saint buried inside. He Tian muttered to himself. A place like this definitely hid a great secret. He couldn't help but be tempted. Don't even think about it. This isn't a place we can set foot in. Ji Yufei saw He Tian's eyes glowing as he looked at the bottomless abyss below. How could he not know what this guy was planning? The Land of Saint Burial wasn't a place they could enter. We've already entered the Supreme Great Tomb. Even if there really is an extreme saint buried in the Land of Saint Burial, it might not be able to stop us. He Tian was well aware of his own capabilities. Without Ji Yufei, he definitely wouldn't dare to enter the Land of Saint Burial. This was because Ji Yufei had an extreme saint weapon on him. Even if he really encountered danger in the Land of Saint Burial, he would be able to protect his life. I know what you're trying to do. Ji Yufei glanced at He Tian and snapped. This guy must be trying to use my extreme Dao sacred weapon to barge into the Land of Saint Burial. However, Ji Yufei wasn't willing to take the risk. No one knew what was inside the Land of Saint Burial. Ji Yufei had already seen the Supreme Great Tomb. If it wasn't for the extreme saint weapon protecting him, he would have most likely been buried inside. The Great Necropolis contained boundless entities that had given birth to Dao fruits. Perhaps only the Great Necropolis of extreme Dao saints could compare to it. Although the dangers inside the Land of Saint Burial weren't as terrifying as the Supreme Great Tomb, they weren't far off. One could imagine how dangerous it was if even a saint had been buried inside. Boss, there must be a supreme divine treasury in the land of saint burial. If we miss it, we'll have to wait another 10,000 years, said He Tian. He didn't want to miss such an opportunity. The supreme divine treasury is great, but we need to be alive to enjoy it. Ji Yufei's attitude was very firm. Even if he had the extreme saint weapon to protect him, he would still encounter great danger in the land of saint burial that could bury even a saint. It would be a tragedy if he got trapped inside and couldn't get out. I never thought that the fearless boss would be afraid, said He Tian. Ji Yufei couldn't help but smile when he heard this. He then said, goading me won't work on me. You'd better save it. No, boss. We can take advantage of the fact that those half-saints are fighting each other in the Supreme Great Tomb to seize the initiative. Who knows, we might really be able to obtain the Supreme Divine Treasury. He Tian couldn't help feeling a little anxious when he saw that Ji Yufei was really going to leave. Ji Yufei ignored He Tian and turned to leave. However, at that moment, something unforeseen happened. A huge purple hand appeared in the void without any warning and swatted at Ji Yufei and He Tian. Bam! Without any hesitation, Ji Yufei and He Tian were sent flying over 10,000 zhong away by the purple hand. They were both shocked and enraged by the impact. Rumble, as soon as Ji Yufei and He Tian were sent flying, an unimaginably powerful immortal aura burst out, causing the entire place to tremble. A half-saint, Ji Yufei and He Tian stabilized themselves, before being shocked again. The violet hand slammed towards Ji Yufei and Mai Tian once again. This time, there was no longer any need for them to hide themselves. The violet golden hand exuded towering immortal power, moving through the air like an ancient divine mountain. Everywhere it passed, the space would shatter, obliterating everything. Preposterous. Ji Yufei was infuriated. His long hair fluttered despite the absence of wind as a torrential battle intent gushed out from his body. He took a step forward and sent a palm strike towards the purplish golden palm in a domineering manner. The hand blotted out the sky. The entire place was covered by the shadow of Ji Yufei's palm. It was a martial art battle technique, the heaven-shrouding hand. An endless amount of martial force surged from the hand and surged forward. Boom! Following a deafening explosion, Ji Yufei was sent flying over 10,000 zhong away again. Even He Tian was sent flying by the destructive force. What? A trace of blood seeped out from the corner of Ji Yufei's mouth. His yin and yang qi surged, yet he was sent flying by a single palm. This was something that he had rarely encountered. After being sent flying twice, Ji Yufei's sovereign martial physique was on the verge of shattering. It's a semi-sage. He Tian escaped immediately. A semi-sage sneak-attacked Ji Yufei. He was unlucky to be standing next to Ji Yufei, so the semi-sage killed him as well. However, Ji Yufei had the emperor martial body, which was invincible among his peers, and He Tian had the almighty divine weapon to protect him. Thus, the hidden half-step sage didn't kill Ji Yufei and He Tian with a single blow, as the hidden half-step sage had expected. Yuan Ji Yufei stared at the void in front of him. The purple golden hand dissipated, and a figure appeared in front of Ji Yufei. It was a middle-aged man with a sage-like demeanor. This middle-aged man was tall and slender, but his face couldn't be seen. His face seemed to be covered by a layer of hazy mist. Even Ji Yufei couldn't see through this mist and could only see a silhouette. Humph! I didn't expect you to walk out of the Supreme Tomb alive. The middle-aged man's body was surrounded by an immortal aura. He looked like a celestial emperor descending. Although he had a sage-like demeanor, he had a supreme majesty that gave people a great sense of oppression. Oh no! He Tian couldn't help but be shocked when he heard the conversation between Ji Yufei and the semi-sage. This person was the Eastern Earth's Emperor Yuan Ji. Ji Yufei and Yuan Ji had a great enmity. Ji Yufei had fought with the Violet Emperor in the Eastern Earth and killed him. The Violet Emperor was the only son of the Eastern Earth's Emperor Xian. Moreover, his cultivation talent was extremely high, and he was expected to become the youngest Dao-severing emperor in the Eastern Earth. However, such a genius of the Eastern Earth had been killed by Ji Yufei. It would be strange if Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan didn't go crazy. The enmity of his son's death wouldn't end until one of them died. Between Jiyu Fei and Yuan Jiyu, one of them had to fall to resolve this enmity. This was an irreconcilable enmity. No one had thought that Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan would appear here. This Emperor's Yan was definitely not simple. He had actually given up the hope of becoming a saint to explore the place where saints were buried. Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan's immortal aura surrounded him as he approached Jiyu Fei step by step. Jiyu Fei felt a great pressure as a dangerous aura had already enveloped them. Swish! Jiyu Fei used the 8 desolate steps and disappeared. In the next moment, he appeared next to He Tian. He grabbed He Tian and rushed down into the bottomless abyss. Want to escape? Do you think you can? Chapter 1231. A wisp of an extreme Dao aura lingered below the crack, intimidating everything in the world. No one dared to approach it, let alone enter it. The aura of an extreme ancient powerhouse was not something an ordinary person could withstand. Even a wisp of extremely weak aura could stop a sovereign realm expert at the advanced level. However, Jiyu Fei had no choice but to drag He Tian into this dangerous place because he did not want to be killed by Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan on the spot. Jiyu Fei and Yuan Jiyu had a great enmity. Yuan Gu's son, the Purple Emperor, had died at the hands of Jiyu Fei. Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan had great luck and had obtained several secrets of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. It could be said that he was in an invincible position and Jiyu Fei was no match for him. Jiyu Fei could use his extreme sacred weapon to fight against other semisage experts, but he could not do so against Yuan Jiyu. As long as he used the chaotic chaos secret technique, all attacks would be reversed. Of course, if Jiyu Fei was also an almighty expert at the Severing Dao realm, he would not be afraid of Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan. The problem was that Jiyu Fei was still a long way from the Severing Dao realm. The current Jiyu Fei could only retreat if he encountered Yuan Jiyu. Where do you think you're going? Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan did not hesitate. His body was shrouded in immortal light, and he swung away the bloody mist. He directly rushed down from the sky. He had no intention of letting go of his great enemy, Jiyu Fei. Wait until I cut my Dao. I will definitely fight you. Now is not the time. Jiyu Fei's voice came from below. Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan's murderous intent intensified. This person would become a great threat in the future if he was not eliminated. The human race martial body was too powerful and had unparalleled combat power. If he truly matured, he would be invincible among his peers. Perhaps no one could suppress him except the descendants of extreme powerhouses. Swoosh! Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan turned into a ray of immortal light and broke through the darkness like a meteor, illuminating the nearby void. His speed was so fast that even Jiyu Fei was shocked. This is the immortal light escape technique. Seeing this, Mahakala was also incomparably shocked. The speed of the celestial light escape art was truly frightening. The distance between the two of them was actually shrinking rapidly. Even Jiyu Fei's 8 desolate steps could not catch up. Damn it! Jiyu Fei had no choice but to use his extreme speed 8 steps to widen the distance between them once again. With every step he took, Daoist rhymes circulated beneath his feet as if he was walking on the great Dao. This, Yuan Jiyu, who had transformed into an immortal light, couldn't help but frown when he saw Jiyu Fei's extreme speed. This guy was indeed quite capable. It wasn't an injustice for my son to lose to him. Buzz! Suddenly, a deafening sound came from the body of the Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan as a shocking sword chi erupted from his body. Then, a divine sword emitted thousands of swordlights and directly slashed at Jiyu Fei and He Tian below. Ghastly cold sword chi swept out in all directions and illuminated the entire heavens and the earth. It even sliced space apart and revealed a great might that seemed capable of slashing the heavens and the earth into two. Flying immortal sword. The sword light was extremely fast, streaking across the void in an instant. It actually caught up to Jiyu Fei and He Tian, causing Jiyu Fei to be inexplicably shocked. The Yuan Jiyu Emperor's Yan cultivated the immortal sword Dao and used the sword to form his Dao. This was the immortal Tao that focused on killing and had the heaviest murderous aura. It was often seen as a cultivation method that harmed the harmony of the heavens and was very different from the peaceful and inactive immortal Tao. However, the immortal sword Tao was the cultivation path with the most offensive power. Sword emperors who severed the Tao were stronger than ordinary immortal emperors. They were the warriors among the cultivators. Boss, sensing the might of this sword, He Tian's expression became very unsightly. Tao patterns appeared on the divine sword, and a trace of saintly might spread out. This was a divine sword, and it was difficult to resist. The Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian had a divine weapon. At this point, he didn't hesitate to use it to kill Jiyu Fei. A divine sword refined by an immortal saint. Endless sword qi came from above, causing Jiyu Fei to feel a chill run down his spine. He sensed a dangerous aura from the Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's sword. Jiyu Fei didn't stop using the 8 desolate steps. Instead, he punched out with a backhand and a dazzling golden light erupted from his fist. This punch contained the profound meaning of the supreme fist technique of the martial way. It was the metal element fist of the flawless 5 elements fist. When the punch was thrown, it drew upon the metal element power of the world. The vast metal element power on Jiyu Fei's fist seemed to interweave into a blurry Tao pattern. Using his body to fight a divine weapon? He Tian couldn't help but be shocked. Although he knew that Jiyu Fei's emperor martial body was incomparably powerful, he had never imagined that it would be strong enough to fight a divine weapon. Cultivators were really terrifying. They could cultivate their bodies to the point where they could fight a divine weapon. It was no wonder that even great accomplishment cultivators didn't have any weapons. Their bodies were the best weapons in the world. Boom! When Jiyu Fei's fist collided with the flying immortal sword light that pierced through from behind, the void trembled violently. The sword of the Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian was blocked. The divine sword flew back, but Jiyu Fei felt a sharp pain in his fist. He quickly retracted his fist and saw that there was a deep sword scar on the back of his hand. The skin and flesh of the wound were split open, and the bones of his hand could be clearly seen. This was only an external wound. What really made Jiyu Fei's expression change was the sharp sword qi that had invaded his arm. Raw. Jiyu Fei shook his right arm, which immediately emitted a powerful sword qi. In the next moment, the sleeve of Jiyu Fei's arm was instantly turned into thousands of pieces. He used his martial path true power to force out the sword qi on his arm. On his right arm, every pore was spewing out sword qi, and the void was being slashed by these sword qi, causing transparent spatial ripples to appear. In an instant, Jiyu Fei expelled the sword qi from his arm. Again, Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian was ready to attack again. However, at that moment, a mournful scream suddenly came from the bottom of the pitch-black crack in the ground. No one knew what they would encounter in this place of absolute darkness. Just as the scream was heard, a ray of light appeared below. Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's speed immediately slowed down. However, Jiyu Fei didn't care and continued to rush forward. A figure was wrapped in the ray of light. The person who charged out from the depths of the pitch-black rift was a tall, middle-aged cultivator. His appearance was ordinary, but his body was stained with blood. Roar. Suddenly, a roar was heard from below. One could vaguely see a demonic shadow hidden in the darkness, chasing after the man who had transformed into a ray of light. This book was first published. Chapter 1232. An almighty emperor rushed out of the bottomless abyss. He was covered in blood and looked extremely miserable, as if he had just experienced a great battle. Roar. An earth-shaking roar suddenly rang out from the pitch-black abyss. A demonic figure hidden in the darkness chased after the Almighty. Tao, save me. When the person saw Jiyu Fei and Yuan Jiyu, he immediately flew towards Jiyu Fei and Yuan Jiyu. He was panic-stricken and had completely lost the spirit that an Almighty should have. It should be known that Tao-severing Almighties were supreme emperors in the heaven realm. It seemed that this Almighty was really frightened. It was hard to imagine what he had experienced in the bottomless abyss. This, Jiyu Fei opened his martial Tao heavenly eye and saw a demonic figure hidden in the darkness. A 10,000 zhong demonic figure rushed out from the depths of the abyss, and a gigantic demonic hand was grabbing at the fleeing supreme expert. This demonic figure used demonic magic and merged with the void. If it wasn't for Ji Fei's martial path heavenly eye, he wouldn't have been able to see any clues. The demons also have their eyes on the land of the buried saints. He Tian cultivated the yin-yang divine eye. Yin and yang rotated in his eyes, and the sun and moon descended. The power of extreme yin and extreme yang interweaved to form a trace of Dao charm. The yin-yang divine eye could see through everything because it was a Dao eye. There was nothing that could not reveal its true form under He Tian's yin-yang divine eye. The Almighty's escape light was extremely fast. He was fleeing for his life. His divine power was vast and mighty, and Dao patterns appeared on his body. The Almighty was also wearing a layer of soft armor under his clothes. The Dao patterns on the Almighty's body had appeared from this soft armor. Just as the black hand was about to grab the mighty being, a beam of divine light shot out from between Ji Fei's eyebrows. The Dao sword formed from his primordial spirit instantly sliced apart the black hand that was hiding in the void and reaching for the mighty being. The primordial spirit Dao sword specialized in slaying the primordial spirit. The great demon below was using the primordial spirit great art, forming a demonic shadow that was tens of thousands of feet tall. Ji Fei's primordial spirit Dao sword was the nemesis of this demonic supreme divine art. That supreme being didn't know that he was on the verge of death just now. Thank you for your help. The supreme being flew in front of Ji Fei and clasped his hands in thanks. Then, he did not stop and directly flew into the sky towards the crack in the ground. Swoosh! Suddenly, a sword light flashed, and a beam of dazzling divine light descended from the sky, instantly cutting the powerful being who thought he had escaped into two pieces. Roar! You! That supreme being roared in anger. He had never thought that someone would attack him at this moment. The flying immortal sword light was unbelievably fast. From the moment the sword light rose to the moment his body was sliced into two at the waist, it only took an instant. Yuan Jiyu, when Ji Fei saw this scene, he couldn't help but be startled. His two sword-like eyebrows were raised. He didn't expect that the primordial Emperor Xian would actually attack an almighty emperor of the human race. Primordial Emperor Xian, I'm not done with you. That supreme being roared. His lower body fell into the bottomless abyss and disappeared into the darkness. His upper body was wrapped in the escape light and shot up into the sky, trying to escape from this place. This was a god emperor with mighty divine power. His soft armor had been split open by the primordial Emperor Xian's sword. If it wasn't a divine artifact, it wouldn't be able to withstand the flying immortal sword light. You won't have a chance. Immortal Emperor Yuan Jiyu directly attacked. The flying celestial sword flew back like a bolt of lightning and instantly killed the mighty being again. Half of the mighty being's body was minced into a bloody mist, leaving nothing behind. This Yuan Jiyu, Ji Fei and He Tian couldn't help but be shocked when they saw Yuan Gu's decisiveness. This person's temperament was too terrifying. He killed without any scruples. It was no wonder that the primordial Emperor Xian could become an ambitious and ruthless person who dominated the Eastern Territory and became an emperor who overlooked the entire Eastern Territory. A half-step saint killing a supreme being was as easy as chopping melons and vegetables. This was the gap between them. Even a supreme being was as weak as an ant in front of a half-step saint. However, Ji Fei was an exception. At this time, Ji Fei already knew why the primordial Emperor Xian had killed that human supreme being. He didn't want others to know that he had come to the saint burial ground. Now that the Dao fruit nurtured in the great peerless tomb had appeared, it had attracted the attention of all the powerhouses. However, the saint burial ground was currently deserted with no one around. The primordial Emperor Xian didn't have the ability to fight for the Dao fruit in the great peerless tomb, but he had the ability to enter the saint burial ground. The saint burial ground was rumored to have a saint buried there. There was most likely a peerless divine treasury inside. This was the reason why the primordial Emperor Xian had risked his life to come here. Who wouldn't be tempted by a peerless divine treasury? All of you must die too. After killing the supreme being, the primordial Emperor Xian once again closed in on Ji Fei and the others. However, at this time, The bloody mist that had yet to dissipate suddenly bloomed with a demonic bloody light. A soul fluctuation spread out from the bloody light. What? The primordial Emperor's yarn stopped in his tracks with a look of disbelief on his face. At this time, the bloody mist of the Supreme being killed by the primordial Emperor's yarn continued to burn. Every drop of blood, bone, and flesh was blooming with bloody light. That person didn't die. Ji Fei and He Tian were a little dumbfounded. After being killed by the flying immortal sword of the primordial Emperor's yarn, the human race's supreme being should have been destroyed in both body and soul. How could he still be alive? It must be known that the flying immortal sword was a sacred sword that was branded with the Sword Saint's Tao pattern. The condensed sword Qi could cut through everything and was definitely not something that an emperor at the almighty realm could contend with. Although the soul power fluctuation was weak, it still existed. This meant that the supreme being hadn't truly died and his divine soul was still present. This is, immortal Emperor Yuan Gu's expression suddenly became very unsightly. Then, he hurriedly attacked again. The flying immortal sword light suddenly surged and a cold sword Qi shot straight towards the blood mist that was emitting a bloody light. However, at this time, the bloody mist suddenly shrank to the center and a blood-colored ancient talisman appeared in the void. Then, the ancient talisman disappeared. Swish! The sword light fell and the void was shattered. However, the blood-colored ancient talisman was nowhere to be seen. No one could see how it had escaped. This is troublesome. The primordial Emperor's yarn knew that he had provoked a formidable enemy. If that supreme being didn't die, it would bring him a lot of trouble. The power behind that supreme being couldn't be underestimated. Mysterious heaven holy talisman? He Tian couldn't help but exclaim when he saw this scene. He knew the origin of the blood-colored ancient talisman. It was a life-saving holy talisman refined by a great sage of the human race. No wonder that supreme being didn't die even after his body was shredded by the sacred sword. It turned out that he had such a life-saving talisman with him. This holy talisman protected the supreme being's divine soul and then escaped into the void. Chapter 1233. The primordial Emperor's yarn had never imagined that he would offend such a powerful force in the heaven realm. He had also never expected that the other party would be able to escape from his sword. He was a half-sage, while the person who had escaped from the abyss was just an almighty at the Tao-severing realm. A half-sage and an almighty were not on the same level. A half-sage was like an immortal in the 9 heavens, while an almighty was like a mortal on earth. For a half-sage to kill an almighty was as easy as killing an ant. However, no one had expected that the mysterious heaven holy talisman would not only prevent the almighty's spiritual soul from dissipating, but also allow the talisman to protect the almighty's spiritual soul as it escaped. Thinking of the impending revenge, the primordial Emperor's yarn's face turned ugly. Damn it! The primordial Emperor's yarn was both shocked and angry. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he stared at Ji Fei and He Tian below. If he had not chased after these two, he would not have met the descendant of the mysterious heaven bloodline, and there would have been no karma. I'm going to tear you into pieces. The primordial Emperor's yarn was furious. His killing intent soared to the sky as he closed in on Ji Fei and He Tian. The flying deity sword transformed into a sword light that danced around his body. The divine sword emitted a trace of holy might. At this time, the great demon, who had been hiding in the void, once again rushed up from the abyss. Just now, his palm had been cut off by Ji Fei's primordial spirit Tao sword and he had been seriously injured. With the primordial Emperor's yarn above and the great demon below, Ji Fei and He Tian could not help but feel a little uneasy. Boom! A huge star rose from the top of He Tian's head. The power of the stars was vast and mighty, and thousands of starlight rays fell from the star, enveloping He Tian and Ji Fei. Let's go. He Tian growled. He immediately used the almighty divine weapon to protect himself and rushed down. Clang! Streaks of starlight transformed into swords of starlight, blotting out the heavens and covering the earth as they pierced through the demonic shadow below. It was an incomparably vast scene. Even the great demon that rushed out of the abyss was shocked. Swoosh! A beam of purple light appeared between Ji Fei's eyebrows, as if an eye had opened. Rays of light formed by his primordial spirit constantly shot out, sweeping towards the demonic figure below. This kind of Tao light formed from the primordial spirit specialized in attacking the divine soul. That great demon had no choice but to retreat. Jiyu Fei and He Tian rushed past it, heading deeper into the abyss. At this time, they couldn't care less. Even if it was a dangerous place in front of them, they had to go through it. Run! Where can you escape to? Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian sneered. His entire body was shrouded in celestial light as he strode in the void like a celestial emperor on an inspection tour. His speed was so fast that it didn't seem to be any slower than Jiyu Fei's 8 steps. Roar! That great devil roared and stretched out his devil hand, grabbing towards immortal Emperor Yuan Jiyu. Devil Qi filled the sky. At this time, this great devil no longer concealed his presence. You're courting death. Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian was incomparably powerful as he pointed his finger forward. Swoosh! The swordlight of the flying celestial sword, which was dancing around his body, immediately turned into a sword rainbow that was thousands of feet long. It emitted a sword chi fluctuation that made the heavens and earth lose their color as it rushed forward. Boom! The huge hand that was directly grabbing at Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian shook, and a pitch-black millstone appeared in the hand. A terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth spread out. This was a powerful demonic weapon that was branded with demonic patterns. The dazzling swordlight collided with the pitch-black millstone. The Tao patterns were destroyed, and the swordlight also dimmed. The world-exterminating millstone had blocked Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's flying celestial sword. The swordlight that shot out in all directions directly pierced through the void. Hey! Immortal Emperor Yuan Jiyu was taken aback. His opponent was actually able to withstand his sword. This had exceeded his expectations. Could it be that this great demon was actually a demi-saint of the devil race? At this time, the world-exterminating demonic plate flew up from the great demon's hand and floated above the great demon's head. The pitch-black demonic aura that looked like a demonic dragon descended from the demonic plate and enveloped the great demon. A half-sage demons that came from the 100,000 demon mountains? Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian had no doubt that the world-exterminating demonic plate floating above the great demon's head was definitely a sacred weapon that could compete with his flying celestial sword. No wonder that Almighty had wanted to escape just now. It seemed like there was a half-sage demons entrenched in this abyss. If he had been a little slower, he would have lost his life. There was nothing much to say. When a half-sage human race encountered a half-sage demons, they could only fight. Boom! With a loud sound, a great battle broke out. Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian and the great demon clashed. The swordlight of the flying celestial sword soared thousands of feet and split the heaven and earth. The half-sage demons was also amazing. He used the world-exterminating demonic plate in his hand to resist the flying celestial swordlight of Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian and continuously clashed with Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian. Swish! The world-exterminating demonic plate soared high into the sky and then became as huge as a mountain. It covered the entire heaven and earth and shrouded Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian. It wanted to trap Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian in the demonic plate. Rumble! The world-exterminating demonic plate was like an ancient demonic mountain that pressed down from the sky. The vast and mighty demonic aura engulfed the heaven and earth as if doomsday had arrived. However, Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian, who was shrouded by the world-exterminating demonic plate, did not panic. When the world-exterminating demonic plate was about to fall on Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's head, his figure suddenly became transparent and disappeared into the void. The great demon was shocked. A living person had actually disappeared under his gaze. How was this possible? Was this a special technique? At this time, Jiyu Fei and He Tian had already disappeared, which made Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian furious. In the next moment, Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's figure silently appeared behind the great demon. He then stretched out his right hand and pressed it on the great demon's back. This was one of the 9 secrets of the immortal path, the antivoid secret technique. The great demon could transform his body into the void and travel anywhere in the world. Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian was in an invincible position. Bam! Catcher! Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian's palm force erupted like a mountain torrent. When it pressed on the great demon, it rushed out and even broke the great demon's spine. The sound of bones breaking was hair-raising. The great demon roared as his demonic power surged. Demonic light constantly shot out from his body as the broken bones reassembled. In just a few breaths, the great demon's body was completely healed. The body of a half-step saint was incomparably strong and not something ordinary cultivators could compare to. Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian and the great demon were fighting endlessly. Terrifying holy power spread in all directions, and the bright divine light illuminated the entire dark area. At this time, Jiyu Fei and He Tian had already reached the bottom of the abyss. Both of their feet stepped on the soil. It was pitch black all around, and the silence was frightening. Chapter 1234. Cracks in the ground were spewing blood mist. There was no light here, so it was impossible to see the color of the mist. However, there was a flickering light ahead. That light seemed to be very far away from Jiyu Fei and He Tian. Even with their divine eyes, it was difficult for them to see what it was. The entrance to the land of buried saints. Jiyu Fei muttered to himself. The land of buried saints was below the Scarlet Plains. They had already gone who knew how many miles underground, but there was a trace of saintly might lingering here. This saintly might was not as faint as it was above. Here, Jiyu Fei and He Tian could clearly feel the supreme aura that made their hearts palpitate. If it was someone else, they might have already collapsed. This was the saint's might, the aura emitted by a saint who had proven his Tao. Just a strand of qi could crush the void. Without reaching that level, it was impossible to know how powerful a saint was. Rumble, a thunderous sound came from above. Primordial Emperor Xian and the demons were fighting. Dazzling sword lights illuminated the dark world from time to time. He Tian looked up at the sky and said, "That demon is really amazing. He actually hasn't been defeated even after fighting with that guy Yuan Jiyu for so long." He wasn't optimistic about the demon's chances. After all, the primordial Emperor Xian was a half-saint who mastered several of the 9 secrets of Immortal's Path. Each of the 9 secrets of Immortal's Path had heaven-defying power. Primordial Emperor Xian had mastered several of the 9 secrets of Immortal's Path. It could be said that he was in an invincible position. Let's go. The sky was sealed by Yuan Jiyu. Since they couldn't leave, Jiyu Fei decided to go to the sacred tomb to see if there really was a legendary peerless divine treasure inside. The virtual sky world, the land where the phoenix perished and the dragon perished, the pseudo-heaven realm that used heaven and earth as a killing trap, as well as the peerless tomb, Jiyu Fei had definitely gone through many dangerous places. However, these perilous lands couldn't do anything to Jiyu Fei. He successfully broke out of them and obtained the treasures inside. Jiyu Fei's luck was definitely not inferior to that of the primordial Emperor Xian. This was exactly what He Tian wanted. He Tian was very tempted by this saint burial ground. However, when they walked towards the light in the distance, they had not gone far when they suddenly heard the sound of bones being crushed under their feet. Jiyu Fei and He Tian were both shocked. They looked down and saw that there were many bones scattered around them. A black skull had been crushed by He Tian. The sound of bones breaking just now was the sound of He Tian stepping on the black skull. Demon bone? Jiyu Fei and He Tian couldn't help but look at each other. This black skull no longer had any luster and its demonic nature had completely disappeared. This skull was almost weathered. It was unknown how long this unlucky great demon had fallen here. Even its bones were almost completely corroded by the power of time. Jiyu Fei noticed that there were faint traces of demonic marks on the broken bones of the skull. This guy was at least a half-step saint of the demons. He had already branded the demonic marks on his bones. His cultivation level and strength were very strong, He Tian said. He had also noticed the strangeness of the skull. A half-step saint of the demons fell here? Jiyu Fei couldn't help but be stunned. The saint burial ground seemed to have a well-deserved reputation. They had not even entered that dangerous place, but they had already found the bones of a half-step saint. There shouldn't be any danger here, right? The space between Jiyu Fei's eyebrows twitched and a purple divine mark appeared on it. It was flowing with divine light as if a divine eye was about to open. A powerful divine will spread out from the purple divine mark on Jiu Fei's eyebrows. He could sense all the details in the surroundings in an instant. Jiu Fei noticed that there were many bones scattered around them. Some of the bones were crystal clear like the nine heavens' divine jade. They still had their divinity. They seemed to have been formed by the decay of the corpses of those who came later. Some of the bones were clearly not the bones of humans. They were the skeletons of strange creatures. Some of the skeletons were extremely huge. They were lying on the ground like small mountains. There were also many rusty ancient weapons and fragments of magic treasures scattered on the ground. The spirituality of these things had disappeared without exception. They were not immortal divine materials. They could not withstand the erosion of time. Even a piece of divine iron would become a piece of scrap after endless years. Buzz! A ball of starlight rose from the top of He Tian's head. The power of the stars was vast and mighty. The starlight illuminated the surrounding area and dispersed the surrounding mist. It was like a resplendent star had appeared in the darkness. When Jiu Fei and He Tian saw the scenery in front of them, they couldn't help but gasp. The ground before them was densely packed with skeletons. Who knew how many people had fallen here? Who knew how many lives the saint burial ground had devoured over the years to reach its current state? The path was paved with white bones. The bones of a half-step saint did not seem very conspicuous among them. The terrain before them was undulating as if there were huge dragons lying on the ground. There were no mountains, only undulating hills and slopes. The saint burial ground is indeed extraordinary. This is the layout of the nine heavens hidden dragon. He Tian's mastery of formations was definitely at the Grandmaster level. He could tell at a glance that the undulating terrain was a rare layout of the nine heavens hidden dragon. Upon closer inspection, one could see that the terrain before them seemed to have 9 huge dragons lying on the ground. They were inconspicuous and formed the posture of a hidden dragon. If someone were to make use of the terrain here to set up a killing trap, then this place of the nine heavens hidden dragon would turn into an absolute killing formation. Anyone who entered would die. Jiu Fei knew a little about formations because he had refined the memories of the god race patriarch Li Xuandao's primordial spirit in the purgatory realm. The god race patriarch Li Xuandao was the true successor of the supreme Dao ancestors' bloodline. He cultivated all kinds of great immortal techniques, and formations were one of them. However, Jiu Fei was a cultivator and did not care to cultivate immortal techniques. Moreover, he could not cultivate them because he did not have a primordial spirit at the time. On the path of immortal cultivation, the majority of the Dao foundation was in the primordial spirit. If a cultivator did not have a primordial spirit, they would not have the foundation to reach the Dao and would find it difficult to truly cultivate immortal techniques. Now that Jiu Fei had unexpectedly obtained a primordial spirit, he could truly grasp immortal techniques. He would no longer be unable to unleash the true power of immortal techniques like he had been without a primordial spirit. The nine heavens hidden dragon. I didn't think that such a terrain really existed in this world. Jiu Fei was amazed. It seemed that he had already encountered the rarest terrain in the world. If such a terrain was used by someone, even a saint would be shocked. This book was first published. Chapter 1235. The Nine Heavens Land of the Hidden Dragon. Such a landscape was hard to find. 9 hidden dragons roamed the earth without revealing the terrain. This was the hidden dragon. If there were 9 dragon-shaped mountain ranges on the ground, then it wouldn't be the hidden dragon, but the rising dragon. However, regardless of whether it was the hidden dragon or the rising dragon, such a landscape was heaven-defying. The power contained within the 9 dragon veins was too great. If someone were to take advantage of it, this landscape would immediately turn into a land of death. Even a saint would find it hard to break through this heaven-defying landscape. Jiu Fei was a little hesitant. Countless skeletons were scattered among the hills and slopes ahead. Among them, there were crystal-clear skeletons of gods, demonic skeletons shrouded in demonic energy. Immortals and demons had fallen here. Moreover, Jiu Fei could vaguely see a huge skeleton that looked like a mountain ridge looming in the mist, which made him feel a little uneasy. However, He Tian suddenly became busy. He took out pieces of 9 heavens heavenly jade that contained a vast amount of spiritual energy and began to engrave formation runes on them. Are you trying to break through this landscape? Ji Fei couldn't help but be startled. The landscape of the 9 heavens hidden dragon was heaven-defying. How could it be so easily broken through? Unless an extreme saint was here. The land of the hidden dragon ahead was filled with piles of bones. It was obvious that this was an extremely dangerous place. The power of the hidden dragon had already been used by someone. These bones were the best proof. With the land of the hidden dragon blocking the way, to truly enter the land of the buried saint, one must pass through this land of the hidden dragon. Even a saint would have a headache here. Who said I want to break through this land of death? Although I can't break it, I can still open up a path of survival in this dangerous place. He Tian was very confident. So what if it was the hidden dragon of the 9 heavens? Even if they met him, they would still have to step aside. This fellow was constantly deducing, and then imprinting runes on the 9 heavens godly jade. Every rune interweaved with the Tao and Tao, drawing upon the spiritual energy contained within the 9 heavens godly jade. At this moment, a loud noise came from the sky. A demonic figure soared into the sky and instantly disappeared from the sky above the abyss. A dazzling sword light flew towards Ji Fei and the others like a divine rainbow. The might of a saint filled the sky and the earth. The ancient Emperor's yarn became one with his sword, releasing a boundless sword energy. The sword light of the flying immortal sword broke through the darkness and rushed toward Ji Fei and the others with a murderous aura. The demons were no match for the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era and had no choice but to flee. Hurry up, it's too late. The flying immortal sword light of the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era was extremely fast. In just a few breaths, the deep cold sword energy had already descended and attacked Ji Fei and He Tian, causing Ji Fei and He Tian to shiver uncontrollably. Go! He Tian shouted in a deep voice and then walked forward. With every step he took, a rune extended from under his feet. He actually walked into the hidden dragon of the 9 heavens. The Emperor's yarn of the primordial era had already arrived. At this time, there was no time for Ji Fei to think. He quickly followed behind He Tian and entered. Want to escape? The voice of the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era reverberated from the sky. The whole world shook, and a wisp of saint aura surged between the heavens and the earth. This was the aura of a half-saint, which had already begun to show the demeanor of a saint. However, in the end, he was not a saint. Although he had the saint aura, he did not have the corresponding cultivation and strength. Whoosh! The sword light traversed between the heavens and the earth. The flying immortal sword was displayed by the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era. The sword light was powerful, and the sword chi was so vast that even the heavens and the earth lost their color. The most frightening thing was that this sword of the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era had attracted the power of the great path of heaven and earth. On the surface of the flying immortal sword Tao runes appeared, and the sword chi that it emitted could kill a saint. This peerless sword light descended from the sky, but He Tian did not panic at all. He calmly walked forward. Runes gushed out from under his feet, and he actually opened up a path in the hidden dragon of the 9 heavens. However, after entering this dangerous place, He Tian's every step was very slow. He carefully calculated and did not dare to take a wrong step. If he took a wrong step, he was afraid that they would be trapped in this dangerous place. Courting death. Seeing that Ji Fei and He Tian did not take his sword seriously and did not even try to dodge it, the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era felt strange and had a bad feeling in his heart. Whoosh! Just as the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era's sword descended, a dragon-shaped divine light suddenly appeared without any warning and met the swordlight head-on. What is this thing? The Emperor's yarn of the primordial era was shocked. He immediately stopped high in the sky when the dragon-shaped divine light that rushed out from the hidden dragon of the 9 heavens collided with the swordlight of the primordial era Emperor's yarn. A strong light cut through the void, and the swordlight of the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era was knocked away by the dragon-shaped divine light. Even the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era was affected and was sent flying thousands of feet away. Even Ji Fei was shocked by this scene. He never thought that this dangerous place would be so terrifying that the dragon-shaped divine light could knock away a saint weapon. After the dragon-shaped divine light knocked away the soaring immortal sword, it disappeared into the void as if it had never appeared, giving off a very unreal feeling. Haha. Come in if you have the ability. He Tian was extremely proud. He turned around and glanced at the Emperor's yarn of the primordial era. His face was full of disdain. So what if he was a half-saint? Didn't he still not dare to enter this place? In the void, apart from He Tian's voice, they could also vaguely hear the roar of a dragon. The hidden dragon of the 9 heavens had not been activated. This place was undulating and the dragon was hidden in the ground. If one did not look carefully, they would not be able to see anything strange. I will destroy both your bodies and souls. The Emperor's yarn of the primordial era roared. His murderous aura soared into the sky. He had already put away the soaring immortal sword that had been knocked away. It was now circling around his body. This was a spiritual saint weapon. Come on. Come and destroy us if you have the ability. We will stand here and let you destroy us. He Tian was fearless. The hidden dragon of the 9 heavens had turned into a killing trap. Even if a half-saint were to barge in, there would only be one outcome, death. The Emperor's yarn of the primordial era was a half-saint of the immortal path. His cultivation was earth-shattering, and he also knew a thing or two about the Tao of formations. At this moment, his expression became very ugly. The hidden dragon pattern. How is this possible? The Emperor's yarn of the primordial era also saw some clues. He did not dare to act rashly. The terrain seemed ordinary, but it contained a terrifying killing intent. It was as if a heavenly beast of the primordial era was lurking there. Anyone who barged in would be devoured by this heavenly beast. The bewildered Yuan Jiyu hesitated. The area ahead seemed to be very dangerous. Chapter 1236. The land of the hidden dragon in the 9th heaven was not obvious, but it was the most dangerous place and impossible to guard against. Someone had made use of this heaven-defying terrain to set up a killing trap. Audiobook Pavilion. It was just a dragon-shaped divine light, but it was enough to send the primordial emperor's yarn flying thousands of feet away. This kind of power was really frightening. Even a sage would have a headache if he were here. When Jiyu Fei and Erebus entered this dangerous place, they felt as though they had stepped into another world. The scenery in front of them also changed drastically. The hilly area had turned into a towering mountain ridge that pierced through the clouds. Although the 9 mountain ridges had nothing to do with the majesty and precipitousness, they were like 9 real dragons that meandered in the boundless sky and earth. The heaven and earth are in the palm. The person who set up this killing trap is not simple. He Tian was shocked to see this scene. From the outside, the land of the hidden dragon did not look very vast. It was just a few hills and slopes. However, when they walked into this place, it was as if they had walked into a vast and boundless world. The air was rising and there was a vague dragon roar lingering in the void. This was the supreme magical power of the heaven and earth in the palm. Formation patterns emerged under He Tian's feet. He did not dare to be careless. If such a killing trap were to be activated, it would be devastating. Even a sage would have to bear a grudge. This place. If you are not confident, I think it's better not to try. Jiyu Fei was shocked to see this scene. This terrain was too heaven-defying. Don't worry. Even if we can't get through, our lives will not be in danger. We can still try, He Tian said. Since they had entered the land of the hidden dragon in the 9th heaven, they would not be satisfied if they did not try. Jiyu Fei naturally knew what He Tian was thinking. He had an extreme path sacred weapon that could protect his life. Even if he were to trigger the 9 hidden dragons, he would at most be trapped. His life would not be in danger. Buzz. A vibrating sound came from Jiyu Fei's body, and the shadow of an ancient cauldron appeared faintly on his body. At the same time, an ancient aura of primordial chaos emerged from Jiyu Fei's body. The cauldron of mountains and rivers could suppress the mountains and rivers of the world, intimidate the 9 heavens and 10 earths. It possessed unparalleled might and was the nemesis of the dragon veins of the earth. As long as one had the cauldron, one could go anywhere in the world. Unfortunately, with Ji Yufei's current cultivation, it was impossible for him to draw out the true power of the mountain and river cauldron. However, using the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself was something that Ji Yufei could do. At this time, the primordial Emperor Xian could only watch helplessly from outside the Nine Heavens hidden dragon terrain. He was an immortal Dao half-sage, so he could tell that this place was extraordinary and didn't dare act rashly. "I'll stand guard here. Let's see how long you can last inside." After the primordial Emperor Xian finished speaking, he actually sat cross-legged in the void. The flying immortal sword danced around him, and he actually stood guard outside. The primordial Emperor Xian didn't know that there was another world inside the Nine Heavens hidden dragon terrain. In his opinion, Ji Yufei and He Tian were just walking slowly between some hills and slopes. Ji Yufei and Erebus had to carefully calculate every step they took. They could not afford to make a mistake. If they made a single mistake, the entire Hidden Dragonland's aura would be triggered. The awakening of the Hidden Dragon would be a disaster for Ji Yufei and He Tian. Inside the Hidden Dragon terrain, there were piles of white bones. It was unknown how many cultivators had fallen here. Among them, there was no lack of demonic bones and the bones of strange beasts. The Hidden Dragon terrain seemed to be boundless. The 9 mountain ridges were incomparably huge, and there was endless earth chi lingering above the 9 mountain ridges. It was hazy, as if a huge dragon was faintly discernible. He Tian had exhausted all his efforts to calculate the changes of the 9 Heavens hidden dragon terrain. His expression was incomparably solemn. With such a heaven-defying place blocking the entrance to the Saint Burial Ground, it was hard to imagine who would be able to break through. The demons that had been chased away by the primordial Emperor Xian had already arrived, but they were also blocked. Now, even the primordial Emperor Xian himself was blocked outside. He didn't dare to casually walk into this area. He Tian had yet to use the array diagram that he had inscribed on the 9 Heavens divine jade outside the hidden dragon terrain. Array patterns constantly appeared under his feet, connecting with the earth chi and sensing the fluctuations of the earth, urging luck and avoiding calamity. Ji Yufei followed behind He Tian. At this time, an ancient cauldron had already condensed on his body and was floating above the two of them. Primordial chaos chi fell from the ancient cauldron and enveloped the two of them. He Tian had already put away his divine weapon. The 9 Heavens hidden dragon terrain was different from the outside world. Although it wasn't as bright as day inside, it wasn't much different. However, the light in the hidden dragon terrain couldn't reach the outside world. It seemed to be blocked by some kind of power. The outside world was still pitch black, and even if one looked in from the outside, they would only be able to see the outline of the terrain. Neither Ji Yufei nor He Tian had imagined that there would be such an area under the crack in the earth. Perhaps even the primordial Emperor Xian hadn't expected it. However, some of the ancient powers probably knew that the Saint Burial Ground wouldn't be easy to enter. Therefore, no one came. The Saint Burial Ground was much more deserted than the Peerless Tomb. The mountain ridges rose and fell endlessly. Only a formation master like He Tian could walk in such a dangerous place. He Tian was also very impressive. Although they were advancing very slowly, they were still heading towards the center of the hidden dragon terrain. This hidden dragon terrain might have given birth to some heaven-defying item. With the protection of the mountain and river cauldron, there was nothing for Ji Yufei and He Tian to be afraid of. They had already passed through the peerless danger zone. Could this hidden dragon terrain be even more terrifying than that peerless danger zone? This is, as Ji Yufei and He Tian gradually approached the depths of the hidden dragon terrain, the skeletons they saw along the way gradually became sparse. Suddenly, a figure appeared in front of them in the hazy earth chi. There was still someone alive in the hidden dragon terrain. Ji Yufei and He Tian were both startled, and their heartbeats quickened. To be able to enter the land of hidden dragon, this person was definitely not simple. They were both in a daze. Swoosh. He Tian's eyes emitted black and white divine light. The power of yin and yang interweaved in his eyes. He activated the yin-yang godly eyes and saw through all illusions. There is no breath of life. It seems to be a dead person. The yin-yang godly eyes in He Tian's eyes disappeared. He then walked forward. The earth chi in front of him dissipated, and they saw a person sitting on the ground with his legs crossed. The place where that person was sitting was right next to the path of survival that He Tian had deduced. He was less than 1 foot away from the path of survival. However, it was this distance of less than 1 foot that caused this person to lose his life. Ancient clothes, dried and waxy skin that tightly stuck to the bones. His eye sockets were sunken as if there were no pupils. This was a dried corpse, and an ancient dried corpse at that. This, Ji Yufei and He Tian were secretly shocked. This person actually still had skin and flesh and didn't turn into a pile of dry bones. This was really unbelievable. One should know that along the way, all they saw were dried bones. Naturally, there were some divine bones that still had some divinity. However, there were very few of them. Could this person be a sage? This book will be published first. Even if your comment is just, *___**, it will become the author's motivation. Please work hard to support the author. Chapter 1237. A dried-up corpse was sitting cross-legged on the side of the path of life. This caused Ji Yufei and Erebus to be indescribably shocked. This person had clearly been dead for countless years, but his corpse had not decomposed and had turned into a dried-up corpse. Hotbook Pavilion. The clothes on the dried corpse were very old, and they were still flowing with spiritual light. This was a divine robe made from the silk of a divine silkworm. Divine silkworms had long been extinct, and they were rare even in ancient times. Legend has it that divine clothes made from this kind of silk could last for a long time and would not decay. It seemed that the legend was not groundless after all. This thing is a treasure. He Tian stared at the clothes on the dried corpse, as if he wanted to get his hands on it in some way. His eyes were shining. A divine robe made from the silk of ancient divine silkworms could be worn to resist sorcery attacks. It had a certain defensive ability against sorcery and divine abilities. However, although it was very close, He Tian did not dare to make a move. The place where the dried corpse was sitting was beside the path of survival that he had calculated. This ancient person was not bad. He had also calculated this path of survival, but he seemed to be quite unlucky. He actually deviated from the path of survival. Perhaps this was the reason why he lost his life. Boss, look. He Tian looked up at the mountain and river cauldron floating above his head, then said to Ji Yufei, "Only the power of an extreme holy weapon could withstand the power of the land of Hidden Dragon." It was less than a foot away, but He Tian felt that there was an insurmountable moat in front of him. He could only watch, but he could not make a move. "You're really too greedy. Even if a wild goose flew over your head, you would probably claw off a handful of hair," Ji Yufei said. He Tian and Old Tortoise had the same character. Their eyes lit up when they saw a treasure. They were both people who wanted to collect all the treasures in the world. The mountain and river cauldron could not be moved, but Ji Yufei had other extreme Dao sacred weapons. With a thought, a purple gold sword light rushed out of his dantian and entered his right arm. This was a martial arts battle technique that fused weapons into the body. Man and weapon as one, cultivated to the highest level, would be a sacred weapon, and the sacred weapon would be a man, inseparable. It was even more wondrous than the immortal Dao's man and sword as one. Ji Yufei's entire arm immediately turned purplish gold. Every single pore on his body spewed with purplish gold light as a cold ripple of sword chi spread out from his arm. This was an obscure ripple of sword chi. It did not spread out in all directions, or the entire Hidden Dragon sect would have been triggered by this sword chi. Ji Yufei cautiously reached out his hand. Just as Ji Yufei's right hand reached a safe zone, a dragon-shaped divine light suddenly appeared without warning, and then directly twisted around Ji Yufei's right arm. This, Ji Yufei felt his arm shake, and then a heart-wrenching pain spread from his arm to his brain. His entire arm felt like it was about to shatter. He grabbed the corpse in front of him with lightning speed and pulled it into the path of life. Then, he looked down and saw that there was actually a dragon-shaped wound on his arm. Ji Yufei gasped. His right arm was actually injured. The dragon-shaped wound was branded on his arm, and blood kept seeping out. Even the purple gold divine sword bracer was injured. The dragon-shaped divine light disappeared into the void without a sound. Is this the divine light that sent the primordial era flying? He Tian was extremely shocked. He faintly felt uneasy. This hidden dragon death trap of the 9 heavens seemed to be much more terrifying than he had imagined. Swoosh! The purple-gold divine sword condensed on Ji Yufei's right arm and then entered Ji Yufei's dantian. Ji Yufei's combat power immediately surged toward his right arm. The injury on his right arm immediately healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. In just a few breaths, Ji Yufei's right arm was as good as new. He Tian did not stand on ceremony and directly stripped the clothes of the corpse. During this process, Ji Yufei stared at He Tian. "Boss, don't look like that. These clothes can still be worn after washing," He Tian said proudly. The divine silkworm divine clothing was a rare item even in ancient times. When Ji Yufei heard this, he could not help but feel disgusted. This guy was so happy to strip the clothes of a dead person. He was really different. Just as Erebus was about to put away the godly silk robe, he suddenly felt something heavy in his hand. He didn't manage to pick up the godly silk robe at once. He exerted some strength, and a black object suddenly rolled out of the godly silk robe. What is this? Ji Yufei and He Tian could not help but be stunned. This object was black and only the size of a man's fist. There seemed to be a black aura lingering on it. He Tian bent down to pick up this object. However, when his hand touched this object, He Tian immediately showed a look of surprise and joy. "This is..." He Tian's voice trembled. This made Ji Yufei feel a little surprised. One should know that he had never seen this guy so excited before. This was only a black stone. Ji Yufei did not feel any spiritual energy fluctuations. However, this black stone was a little strange. There was actually a black aura lingering on it. This is this. I can't believe I actually obtained this thing in this place. He Tian carefully held the black stone and observed it carefully. He saw that there seemed to be clouds surging on this black stone. Then, the black aura actually separated. A trace of white aura began to appear on the stone. Then, black and white aura began to circulate on the black head, unexpectedly forming a yin-yang diagram. How can this be? The change on the stone was definitely not man-made. It was a natural formation. This made Ji Yufei feel that it was unbelievable. He could not feel any spiritual energy fluctuations at all. Then, on the stone, the yin-yang diagram formed by the black and white aura gradually faded. Then, the black and white aura gradually merged together again. Seeing all these changes, even Ji Yufei could not help but be moved. Just what was this stone? How could there be such a mysterious change? Chaos into yin and yang into chaos. Is this the legendary chaotic yin-yang stone? He Tian muttered to himself. Even he could not believe what he was seeing. Although this stone was only the size of an adult's fist, when He Tian held it in his hand, he felt like he was holding a huge mountain. The black stone was extremely heavy. Immortal material, chaotic yin-yang stone? Hearing this, Ji Yufei was shocked. No wonder he could not feel any aura on this stone. All immortal materials had the instinct to restrain their own essence. Because immortal materials only gathered essence energy and did not release essence energy, the essence energy contained in the divine materials would not be lost and could exist for a long time. This book is first published. Even if your comment is only ***********, it will become the author's motivation to create. Please work hard to support the author. Chapter 1238. No one would have thought that a dried corpse would have such a heaven-defying treasure. He Tian was so happy that his grin extended all the way to his ears. Back in the day, I, old He, was poor in the 9 heavens and went to the Yellow Springs. I almost ran all over the 3 realms and 6 paths, but I didn't even see a shadow of the chaotic yin-yang stone. I didn't expect to find it here. He Tian's excitement was indescribable. Back in the day, Ji Yufei couldn't help but glance at He Tian. Could this guy be a famous figure in the ancient times? Otherwise, why would he search all over the world for immortal treasures that only extreme path experts could have? Immortal treasures were exclusive to extreme path experts in the ancient times. Even if others obtained them, it was difficult to refine them. Only extreme path experts had the ability to refine them into extreme path sacred weapons. He. This. Erebus was beside himself with joy. At this moment, he also realized that he had made a slip of the tongue. He quickly stopped talking and carefully put away the black stone that was the size of an adult's fist. Ji Fei already had the 9 heaven stars sword. Although immortal treasures were rare, this chaotic yin-yang stone was not very useful to him. Let's bury this senior. Ji Fei looked at the dried corpse that He Tian had thrown aside. This guy really dared to do anything. This was blasphemy against the ancient sages. Ji Fei no longer had any doubts. This dried corpse's flesh and bones had not melted after so many years. Perhaps only the legendary sages could have such a phenomenon. Erebus hesitated for a moment before saying, "This. Boss, don't you think that this mummy is also a treasure?" What? Ji Fei was startled. This guy, it was not enough to take off his clothes. Now he also wanted his corpse. This guy was too thorough. He was a little speechless. Swoosh. He Tian flicked his finger, and a beam of divine light instantly chopped down on the mummy. The divine light was as sharp as a divine weapon, but it couldn't even leave a mark on the mummy. Such a physical body. Upon seeing this, Ji Fei was extremely shocked. One must know that He Tian was already a half-step almighty. He was only half a step away from severing his path and becoming an almighty. The attack of a half-step almighty was no small matter, but He Tian's finger wind couldn't penetrate the corpse, which surprised Ji Fei. Legend had it that the physical bodies of the ancient sages were incomparably powerful. A single drop of their blood or even a strand of their hair could slay immortals and destroy gods. They contained the terrifying power of the sages. This mummy no longer had any divinity in it. Even if it was an ancient sage, at this time, the essence of this corporeal body was almost completely drained. Day and night, the power of the hidden dragon ground had been eroding the profound qi contained in this mummy. After thousands of years, this mummy would become a pile of dry bones just like the white bones around it. Erebus was truly a person who didn't leave any feathers behind. He actually kept the dried corpse. This caused Ji Fei to be dumbfounded. What was the use of a dried corpse that had lost all its spirituality? Could it be that this guy wanted to learn from the old tortoise and refine a saint-level avatar? He Tian had obtained a great harvest. He worked even harder to deduce the terrain of the hidden dragon ground. 9 mountain ridges meandered on the ground. Ji Fei and the others didn't dare to cross these 9 mountain ridges directly. They could only advance carefully between the mountain ridges. They walked slower and slower because they saw what seemed to be the remains of a sage. How could someone who possessed an immortal material like the chaotic yin-yang stone be an ordinary person? Even if it wasn't a sage, it was probably a half-step sage. His cultivation and strength were extremely terrifying. Even such a person fell here. Ji Fei and the others had to be careful. In the hidden dragon ground, the earth energy rose. The vegetation here wasn't lush, but with the endless nourishment of the earth energy, many spirit herbs grew. Above the 9 mountain ridges that looked like real dragons, a soothing medicinal fragrance wafted over from time to time. This made He Tian extremely tempted. 10,000-year-old spirit herbs could be seen from time to time, but these spirit herbs didn't grow on the life path that He Tian had deduced. They could be seen but couldn't be reached. This almost drove He Tian crazy. Spirit herbs. Boss, look, He Tian had his eyes on Ji Fei again. Only Ji Fei had the ability to harvest these spirit herbs. Other than Ji Fei, even a sage couldn't harvest these spirit herbs. Don't even think about it. Ji Fei didn't lack spirit herbs. He had as many as he wanted in his inner world. Beside the divine spring in his inner world, there was also the immortal ancestral dragon herb rooted there. Apart from the immortal divine herb, there weren't many divine herbs that could tempt Ji Fei. Suddenly, He Tian stopped. On the mountain wall in front of him, there was an immortal herb gently swaying in the breeze. It was a jade-green divine herb that looked like an immortal divine material. It was only a foot tall, but the surrounding spirit energy rippled and shrouded the surrounding area in a clear halo. It contained a vast amount of spirit energy. Could this be the legendary blue fall divine herb that can bring people back from the dead? When Jiu Fei saw the divine herb on the opposite mountain wall, he couldn't help but be moved. Blue fall divine herb was a legendary divine herb that could give people an extra life. It was incomparably precious. Whether it was a cultivator or a mortal, as long as there was a strand of divine sense that hadn't dissipated, they could use this divine herb to reform their souls and regenerate their flesh and blood. How could there be such a thing in this place? Blue fall divine herb was an immortal divine herb that was hard to find in the world. Just like immortal divine materials, it was a divine herb exclusive to supreme saints. Supreme saints had 2 lives. Even if they suffered a fatal injury, they could use the immortal divine herb to save their lives. Of course, not all supreme saints could obtain an immortal divine herb. Boss, He Tian was excited again. His eyes were shining and his saliva almost dripped down. Who wouldn't want an immortal divine herb? This time, He Tian was really going crazy. Say no more, Jiu Fei said. His expression was incomparably grave. No way, this is an immortal divine herb. He Tian looked at Jiu Fei in disbelief. For the sake of an immortal divine herb, even if it was a sinkhole that could devour everything, he would still jump. He Tian couldn't help but want to try. It was worth the risk. It's mine. Jiu Fei's next words stunned He Tian. He immediately realized that it wasn't that Jiu Fei didn't want it, but that he wanted it for himself. This. Boss, everyone who sees it has a share, He Tian said carefully. Chapter 1239. Jiu Fei and He Tian were pleasantly surprised to see the immortal divine herb, the blue descent divine herb, in the land of Hidden Dragon. They had never imagined that they would see it in a place like this. The undying divine grass is exclusive to supreme saints. Could it be that an supreme saint was buried here? He Tian muttered to himself. He couldn't help but shiver at the thought. Supreme saints were said to be invincible throughout the ages, but it didn't seem to be absolute. Even the heavens and earth could be destroyed and the grand Tao could collapse, let alone a saint. This 9 heavens hidden dragon grid was priceless beyond words. If 9 dragons could ascend to the heavens, it would be a heaven-defying miracle. Could it be that an supreme saint wanted to take another step forward and ended up being buried here? He Tian was proficient in formations. The more he thought about it, the more apprehensive he became. However, this 9 heavens hidden dragon grid was much smaller compared to the peerless tomb, which used the heavens and earth as the tomb and the 49 earth ancestral veins as the formation. This is the saint burial ground, nothing is impossible. Jiu Fei was also shocked to hear He Tian's words. The saint burial ground was a legend passed down from generation to generation, but no one had actually seen the corpse of a saint. The blue descent divine grass swayed in the wind as a hazy green divine light enveloped the entire area. The divine light flickered continuously as the undying divine grass absorbed spiritual energy. It can't be like the ancestral dragon immortal herb, where this divine grass gained sentience, right? Jiu Fei couldn't help but frown. If that was the case, then their chances of catching this divine grass were minuscule. Who cares? Boss, what are we waiting for? He Tian was a little anxious. This was the blue descent divine grass. If it appeared in the heavenly world, the entire heavenly world would be shaken. Having an undying divine grass was equivalent to having an extra life. The path of survival that He Tian had deduced was to pass under the cliff in front of them. If they wanted to obtain the azure divine grass, they had to leave the safe zone. That dragon-shaped killing light was no joke. It could even send a half-step sage flying. It was comparable to a holy weapon. It had even injured Jiu Fei's arm, which was protected by the power of the purple gold divine sword. Such lethality was definitely at the saint level. Jiu Fei didn't dare to be careless. The mountain and river cauldron floated above his head. Primordial chaos energy fell down from the mountain and river cauldron like giant chaos dragons that enveloped him. This was the heaven and earth ancestral energy. At this time, Jiu Fei was absolutely invulnerable to all techniques. There were no magical techniques or supernatural powers that could penetrate the primordial chaos energy. Even so, Ji Fei still used the purple-gold divine sword. The extreme path holy weapon rushed out of his dantian and was then integrated into his body. The moment the purple-gold divine sword was integrated into Ji Fei's body, Ji Fei's aura suddenly changed. His entire body seemed to have become an unsheathed, peerless divine sword. The frigid sword energy forced Erebus to take a few steps back. This was the result of Ji Fei withdrawing the sword qi in his body. At this time, his skin had turned purple gold, as if it had turned into metal. Every pore on his body was spewing sword light, giving off an extremely strong sense of oppression. It made He Tian feel as if he was being pointed at by countless peerless divine weapons. His entire body shivered. This was the aura of the extreme path holy weapon. Even if it was not awakened, even if it was only a trace of aura, it was still not something that ordinary people could withstand. Only someone with a physique like Ji Fei's could integrate the extreme path holy weapon into his body. If it was anyone else, they would probably have exploded from the extreme path holy weapon. Ji Fei only dared to walk out of the safe zone after he was fully prepared. Boom! Just as Ji Fei took his first step, his entire body sank. There was an enormous pressure outside the safe zone. He was almost unable to straighten his back due to this pressure. The ground under his feet cracked under his feet. Buzz! The cauldron of mountain and river vibrated and primordial chaos energy poured down. Ji Fei immediately felt his body relax and the pressure on him was greatly reduced. This made him breathe a sigh of relief. However, at this time, a dazzling divine light in the shape of a dragon appeared in the distant sky. Like a real dragon, it charged towards Ji Fei. A vast wave of dragon qi filled the sky. It was as if a real dragon had appeared in the sky. The dragon's might shook the heavens and earth. This, Ji Fei, who had seen the power of the dragon-shaped killing light, was shocked. This killing light was extremely terrifying. This was definitely the absolute divine light of annihilation. This made Ji Fei's hair stand on end. The divine light arrived in a flash. It was so fast that Ji Fei could not react at all. He was knocked away by an extremely powerful force. Boom! Ji Fei crashed into the mountain wall in front of him. A huge pit immediately appeared in the mountain wall. Broken rocks rolled down from the top. Boss! He Tian was stunned. He never thought that the dragon-shaped divine light would be so powerful. It could actually knock away Ji Fei, who was protected by the cauldron of mountain and river. The dragon-shaped divine light could actually penetrate the primordial chaos energy and hit Ji Fei's body. Bam! The huge pit in the mountain wall exploded. A figure with an ancient cauldron on his head rushed out. Ji Fei felt as if all the bones in his body were about to shatter. A trace of blood seeped from the corner of his mouth. If he had not used the power of the purple gold sword to protect himself, he would have been pierced by the dragon-shaped divine light. What is this? Ji Fei was extremely shocked. Even with the protection of the holy weapon, he still felt danger. The dragon-shaped killing light was not simple. It seemed to be a form of power in the land of hidden dragons. The dragon qi was vast and mighty. The killing light soared in the sky like a real dragon. It rushed towards Ji Fei from afar. This time, the killing light was even more powerful. The dragon qi in this part of the world was attracted by the killing light. There seemed to be tens of thousands of dragons roaring in the sky. This caused Ji Fei's soul to tremble. He was extremely shocked. I don't care if you're a dragon or an insect. Before the cauldron of mountain and river, even a dragon has to coil up. Ji Fei's battle intent was unparalleled. His long hair danced in the wind and his entire body radiated with unparalleled sword qi. The cauldron of mountain and river spun above his head, emitting divine might that suppressed the surroundings. A circle of visible ripples spread from the cauldron of mountain and river. Bam! The dragon-shaped divine light seemed to collide with a transparent wall. It was actually sent flying by the power that spread from the cauldron of mountain and river. Rumble! The cauldron of mountain and river shot into the sky, suppressing the dragon-shaped divine light. Chaotic primordial qi surged and a boundless and ancient aura immediately spread from the cauldron of mountain and river. Just as Ji Fei activated the cauldron of mountain and river, the mountain ridge next to him suddenly trembled. A dragon's roar rang out and the entire mountain ridge shook. Endless dragon chi seeped out from the mountain, as if a real dragon had been awakened from its slumber. The Lay of Dragons is awakening. Chapter 1240. Rumble, rumble. The entire mountain ridge was shaking as if a huge dragon was turning over. Boulders kept rolling down from the mountain ridge, and an extremely terrifying shockwave spread out from the mountain ridge. Is the dragon vein awakening? Hei Tian was extremely shocked. The power of the mountain and river cauldron seemed to have awakened the dragon vein. One had to know that the mountain and river cauldron could suppress the mountains and rivers of the world, and it was the nemesis of the dragon vein. Once the aura of the mountain and river cauldron spread out, the dragon vein would definitely sense it and react. This was the land of hidden dragons of the 9 heavens. If the dragon vein awakened, the entire area would immediately become a land of death. The vast and mighty dragon chi of the earth could obliterate everything. The 9 hidden dragons were definitely saint-level existences. If the 9 hidden dragons awakened, even a saint-level existence would only have one ending, and that was the destruction of both body and soul. Boss, quickly put away the mountain and river cauldron, Hei Tian shouted anxiously. This was a critical moment. Once the land of hidden dragons awakened, it would be a disaster. What's happening inside? At this time, the Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian, who was guarding outside the land of hidden dragons, also felt the strange movement inside the land of hidden dragons. An aura that made his heart palpitate spread out from the land of hidden dragons. Swoosh! Yuan Jiyu Emperor Xian opened his divine eyes and wanted to see into the land of hidden dragons. However, he found that the area in front of him was actually hazy and blurry. Even his divine eyes could not see through it. In the land of hidden dragons, there was a force that disturbed the heaven's secrets. In the depths of the land of hidden dragons, the strange movement of the dragon vein caused Jiyu Fei and Hei Tian to turn pale with fright. A dragon vein actually showed signs of awakening, which made Hei Tian a little flustered. At this time, Jiyu Fei did not dare to be negligent. He quickly operated his Shen Qi and withdrew the mountain and river cauldron that was suppressing the dragon-shaped divine light. The terrifying aura from the mountain and river cauldron quickly disappeared into the mountain and river cauldron. The ancient cauldron floated above Jiyu Fei's head, emitting strands of primordial chaos qi that enveloped Jiyu Fei. However, the aura that could intimidate the 9 heavens and 10 earths was hidden. As the aura of the mountain and river cauldron receded, the winding mountain ridge that resembled a real dragon actually calmed down. This caused Jiyu Fei and Hei Tian to be dumbfounded. The whole area gradually calmed down, but danger was approaching Jiyu Fei. That dragon-shaped god light seemed to have a spirit. It was afraid of the cauldron of mountain and river. But now that the cauldron of mountain and river had retracted its aura, the dragon-shaped god light rushed towards Jiyu Fei again. Buzz! A buzzing sound came from Jiyu Fei's right arm. Then, a violet gold divine sword appeared in his hand. He swung the divine sword and slashed at the incoming dragon-shaped divine light. Swoosh! The violet gold sword radiance rushed out from Jiyu Fei's hand. It directly cut through the void and rushed towards the dragon-shaped god light. This was a strand of sword chi from an extreme divine weapon. The cold sword chi caused the temperature of the surrounding area to drop. The dragon-shaped godlight and the violet gold sword chi collided in an instant. The violet gold sword chi was dispersed, but the dragon-shaped godlight was not extinguished. It broke through the violet gold sword chi and continued to rush towards Jiyu Fei. Jiyu Fei was not willing to be entangled with this peerless killing light. He soared into the sky and directly flew towards the blue divine herb on the mountain wall. However, just as Jiyu Fei approached the blue divine herb actually burrowed into the mountain wall with a whoosh and hid. The divine herb was indeed intelligent. This made Jiyu Fei and Hei Tian very disappointed. This was the layout of the hidden dragon of the 9 heavens. It was very likely that the blue divine herb had already escaped into the dragon's vein. If it really did escape into the dragon's vein, then even a saint would not be able to catch it. Although he had already thought that the immortal herb might have already gained intelligence and would be difficult to catch, Jiu Fei was still a little disappointed to see the divine herb disappear into the mountain wall. Jiu Fei activated the power of the violet gold divine sword and used the 8 desolate steps. It was as if he was walking in the void. His speed was extremely fast. Before the dragon-shaped god light reached him, he had already returned to the safe zone. The dragon-shaped god light seemed to have gained intelligence as well. It seemed to know the power of the mountain and river cauldron. It was not as fierce and unstoppable as it had been when it first appeared. When Jiu Fei returned to the safe zone, the dragon-shaped god light actually disappeared into the void just like that. It was as if it had never appeared. What the hell is that thing? Jiu Fei couldn't help but be shocked. This dragon-shaped god light was too terrifying. It came and went without a trace. It was impossible to sense where this god light would appear. It was impossible to guard against it. The hidden dragon of the 9 heavens. Could it be a killing intent born from this terrain? He Tian seemed to have thought of something. Yes, this is the 9 dragons' killing intent. If my guess is correct, there should be 9 of such godlights. Now, only 1 has appeared. This was what Erebus said. 9 dragons' killing intent? Jiu Fei was shocked. What was that? He had seen the killing intent of a supreme saint before. A new danger zone in the eastern lands had been created by the killing intent of a saint. Could it be that the 9 dragon veins of the land of Hidden Dragon had given birth to a dragon soul? If that was the case, then this land of Hidden Dragon was too heaven-defying. 9 dragon veins with a soul. What kind of concept was that? These were 9 dragon veins that could transform into real dragons. They had unlimited potential. One day, they might be able to soar into the sky and become a real heavenly dragon. Even if the person who set up this trap is not a supreme saint, he is probably a great saint. He Tian judged. An ordinary saint might not have the ability to set up such a trap. Jiu Fei withdrew from the state of weapon fusion. The purple gold divine sword condensed on his body and was put into his dantian. The mountain and river cauldron floated above Jiu Fei and He Tian's heads. He Tian continued to deduce the various changes of the hidden dragon of the 9 heavens. Matrix patterns kept surging under his feet. He sensed the movement of the dragon chi of the earth. He could sense all the subtle changes in the surrounding area. Under the guidance of the aura, Erebus accurately found a way out of this predicament. Jiu Fei had never seen the technique that He Tian displayed. With this technique, wouldn't He Tian be able to come and go freely in any trap? This guy was too mysterious. He seemed to know everything. However, this guy hid very well. He did not mention a word about his past. This made Jiu Fei speechless. As they got closer to the central area of the land of Hidden Dragon, Jiu Fei found that the surrounding dragon chi gradually became thicker. Spiritual herbs emitted a medicinal fragrance and dotted the stone mountains. Some of the spiritual herbs had grown for many years. They could actually absorb spiritual chi on their own. This made He Tian very jealous. These were all rare king herbs in the world. Jiu Fei and He Tian did not know how long they had been in this land of Hidden Dragon. Suddenly, they found that on the dragon-shaped ridge, there were traces of man-made excavation. That is. Chapter 1241. There were actually hanging coffins on the ridge, which made Jiu Fei and He Tian dumbfounded. How was this possible? Who could have buried these people here? This was too dreamy. It must be known that the 9 dragons' killing will was a saint-level divine will that could kill a saint. Could this be the work of an extreme saint? The hanging coffins were distributed on both sides of the ridge. Some of the coffins had decayed and were scattered on the ground, but some were as good as new. Hotbook Pavilion. In today's world, saints are extinct. No one can be buried here. He Tian muttered to himself. The seemingly new coffins had actually existed for countless years, but no one knew why they hadn't decayed. After careful observation, such hanging coffins were distributed on the 9 mountain ridges. There were actually more than 1,000 hanging coffins on the 9 hidden dragon mountains. These thousands of hanging coffins shouldn't have been buried in the land of Hidden Dragon at the same time. Could this be the tomb of some great ancient force? To use the land of Hidden Dragon as a tomb, Such a force must have been extremely powerful even in ancient times, and there might have been saints among them. I'm afraid there's something strange here. He Tian stopped outside and continued to make deductions with a solemn expression. After a long time, sweat seeped from He Tian's forehead. This time, he took out the 9 heavens divine jade formation pattern that he had prepared outside the land of Hidden Dragon. There's no way out here. It seems that I can only force my way through. He Tian finally stopped. This place was very terrifying. There was actually no way out. It seemed that the person who set up this killing trap didn't even leave any way out. What's going on? Hearing this, Ji Yufei couldn't help but frown. Could this place be a land of certain death? How could they break through? Would they still rush in knowing that it was a dead end? There seems to be a glimmer of hope, He Tian said. This time, even he did not have much confidence. It was no wonder that no one had ever been able to enter the land of the buried saints despite it having existed for countless years. With the 9 heavens hidden dragon trap blocking the entrance to the land of saint burial, who would be able to easily break through such a deadly trap? The consequences of using the mountain river cauldron are unimaginable, Ji Yufei said. They couldn't really use the mountain and river cauldron here, as it would awaken the land of Hidden Dragon. If the land of the Hidden Dragon were to awaken, then it wouldn't just be one dragon-shaped killing intent. At that time, 9 dragon-shaped killing intents would arrive at the same time. Even with the protection of the extreme path sacred weapon, Ji Yufei and the others would most likely be in danger of losing their lives. We're already here. Are we going to retreat? He Tian was extremely unwilling. After all, there was the immortal blue descent divine grass here. Furthermore, the central region of the Hidden Dragon region was most likely filled with inconceivable things. Then what do we do? Are we really going to walk in even if we know it's a dead end? Ji Yufei said. Using the mountain and river cauldron here would lead to catastrophic consequences. Other sacred weapons were unable to pose a threat to the 9 dragons' killing intents. This made Ji Yufei very depressed. He had an extreme path sacred weapon, but it was difficult for him to fully activate its power. This was like possessing a supreme divine treasure trove, but being unable to use anything within. Ji Yufei was at a loss as to where to start and what to do. It seemed that the best plan now was to retreat. Ji Yufei was also very unwilling, but he had no other choice. This place was not a place he could recklessly enter. If he were to fall here, he would most likely be trapped here forever. Looks like I have no choice but to use my true strength. He Tian thought for a moment, then took out even more divine jades and a large pile of divine materials. Every single divine material was a rare item in the world, and every single one of them contained an enormous amount of spiritual energy. What starstone, 5 elements earth, 9 yin true water, etc. He Tian began to use these divine materials to set up a formation. This time, he had spent a lot of money. These things were all very difficult to find, and he had no idea where He Tian had found them. Seeing that He Tian did not give up and still wanted to charge into the danger zone, Ji Yufei couldn't help but be incomparably shocked. Could it be that this guy still had a backup plan? I want to set up a corner of the extreme path sacred formation, He Tian said with incomparable seriousness. What? Hearing that, Ji Yufei was truly shocked. Extreme path sacred formation? This guy actually knew about extreme path sacred formation. This was truly too unbelievable. Could it be that He Tian had actually obtained the inheritance of an extreme path saint? Even if he had obtained the inheritance of an extreme path saint, it was still impossible to set up an extreme path sacred formation, unless this guy had obtained the true inheritance of an extreme path saint. Thinking of this, Ji Yufei was even more interested in He Tian's background. Just who was this guy? Was he someone who had followed an extreme path saint? If that was really the case, then He Tian was definitely a super antique, comparable to the old tortoise crown prince. The formation runes of the extreme path sacred formation, unless it was an immortal divine material, otherwise, no divine material could bear this kind of formation runes, because this kind of formation runes contained Tao energy. He Tian did not imprint the formation runes on these divine materials. He smelted all the divine materials in front of him like a small mountain, then used the endless spiritual energy contained in the divine materials to condense the formation runes. Every formation rune was a Tao rune, containing the Tao and principles of heaven and earth, interweaving into a mysterious and ancient pattern, and the Tao energy was condensing. The extreme path array runes condensed in the void, then shot up into the sky, not imprinted in the void, but hidden in the mountain and river cauldron above the two of them. The various divine materials that were like a small mountain all rushed out with dazzling lights, overflowing with color. The spiritual energy of the divine materials was quickly extracted by He Tian, and some of the divine materials began to dim. He Tian did not dare to relax at all. He was fully focused, using all his strength to mobilize the endless spiritual energy, condensing the extreme path array runes, and imprinting them on the mountain and river cauldron. An extreme path aura was emitted from the mountain and river cauldron. Seeing this scene, Ji Yufei had already vaguely guessed what He Tian was doing. After a full 6 hours, He Tian finally imprinted a corner of the extreme path array runes on the mountain and river cauldron, and the pile of divine materials in front of him also turned into a pile of powder. A gust of wind blew, and the pile of powder in front of He Tian immediately dispersed with the wind. Phew! He Tian let out a long breath, wiped the sweat on his forehead, and then stood up from the ground. He looked a little tired, as if condensing the extreme path array runes had consumed a lot of his spiritual energy. Alright, I can only use a corner of the extreme path array to change the sky and earth, so that this part of the world cannot sense the aura of the mountain and river cauldron. You can use the mountain and river cauldron as much as you want, said He Tian. In that case, I have nothing else to say. Then I will accompany you into this deadly place. Ji Yufei nodded. Since he could use the mountain and river cauldron, it was still possible to enter this place. At least his life was guaranteed, and even if he could not enter, he could escape unscathed. But we only have 2 hours, said He Tian. 2 hours. Hearing this, Ji Yufei could not help but be stunned, but then he understood. Nothing could be imprinted on the mountain and river cauldron forever, not even the extreme path array runes. This book is first published. Even if your comment is only *********, it will become the author's motivation, so please work hard for the author. Chapter 1242. He Tian was getting serious. He used countless divine materials to condense the extreme Tao rune and actually set up a corner of the extreme Tao sacred array. The extreme Tao rune was imprinted on the mountain and river cauldron, temporarily blocking the aura of the mountain and river cauldron. We only have 2 hours, He Tian said solemnly. The corner of the extreme Tao sacred array could only block the aura of the mountain and river cauldron for 2 hours. The mountain and river cauldron was an extreme Tao sacred weapon. It had once nurtured a chaotic origin embryo. If this ancient cauldron was completely awakened, even a complete extreme Tao rune would not be able to be imprinted on the body of the cauldron. Ji Yufei did not dare to be careless. He began to activate the power of the mountain and river cauldron. The primordial chaos chi descended from the mountain and river cauldron, enveloping him and He Tian. The surrounding dragon vein did not move, which made Ji Yufei heave a sigh of relief. On the mountain and river cauldron, the extreme Tao rune appeared, blocking the aura of the mountain and river cauldron. Let's go. Ji Yufei took the first step forward. With this step, the scenery in front of them immediately changed. Black mist rose from the ground, as if something was about to drill out of the ground. He had only taken the first step into the dangerous place, but it had already caused the dangerous place to change. Ji Yufei and He Tian could not help but be moved. Soon, the hazy black qi grew thicker and thicker, obstructing Ji Yufei's and Erebus's vision. They could no longer see their surroundings clearly. Death qi. He Tian followed behind Ji Yufei. When he saw this scene, he could not help but frown. He felt the aura of death, as if he had walked into hell. It really is a graveyard. The cold death qi rose from the ground, darkening the sky. Within the black death qi, there seemed to be a ghostly shadow. It was eerie and terrifying. Bang! Ji Yufei and He Tian had not entered the dangerous place for more than 300 meters when a loud sound came from the mountain wall. A coffin exploded. Boom! A cloud of black fog rushed out from the mountain, covering half the sky. A terrifying death aura spread from the sky to the ground, and a terrifying figure appeared in the black fog. Two blood-red eyes shot out from the black mist, sweeping towards Jiu Fei and He Tian. It's a zombie. Jiu Fei and He Tian couldn't help being shocked by this scene. Although they had already anticipated that they would encounter many dangers in this danger zone, they hadn't expected that their corpses would come back to life as soon as they entered. The existences buried in the land of the hidden dragon had turned into evil beings that were like corpses. These evil beings were ferocious and terrifying. They only knew how to kill, and the aura of living people would attract these evil beings. Like an unparalleled demon, the zombie soared into the sky, exuding a monstrous aura of death, directly pouncing towards Jiu Fei and the others. Compete. Jiu Fei stopped and directly punched upwards. A fiery divine light rushed out from his fist, illuminating the entire dusky world. The power of the fire element was vast and mighty. Jiu Fei's fiery fist energy shook the world. This was the release of the martial path's true power, direct and unstoppable. The endless aura of death was instantly dispersed by Jiu Fei's fist energy. A skinny figure appeared in the sky. It was an ancient corpse clad in black divine armor, surrounded by the aura of death. Bang! Jiu Fei's punch sent the ancient corpse flying. What surprised him was that this ancient corpse wasn't smashed into pieces by his own punch. Incredible! Even the body of a peak sovereign realm expert couldn't withstand your punch, He Tian exclaimed. This ancient corpse was most likely an almighty existence when it was alive. If the ones buried in the outermost area were almighty ancient existences, then wouldn't the ones buried in the innermost area be even more terrifying? Could it be that there was also an extreme saint buried here? Although the Nine Heavens Hidden Dragon Grounds was a heaven-defying treasure ground, it couldn't be compared to the layout of the 49 Great Earth ancestral veins in the Great Tomb. There shouldn't be a saint corpse here, right? Jiu Fei was a little scared. The ones buried in the outermost area were almighty ancient existences. It was hard to imagine what kind of tomb this was. Hard to say, be careful. Erebus was still running his deductions. Even the person who had set up this trap hadn't left a way out for himself. This was a trap that would only allow one to enter but not leave. However, nothing was absolute. Even if it was a death trap with no way out, there would still be a weak spot. What Erebus was doing now was to find the weak spot of this perilous land. The ancient corpse was blown away by Jiu Fei's punch, but it immediately rushed towards them again. This ancient corpse was only relying on its instincts to attack. It couldn't use all kinds of great techniques from when it was alive again. Jiu Fei attacked again. This time, his fist turned into a golden sun, blooming with endless golden light. The power of the metal element in the world was attracted by him. He struck out with the most powerful attack, the golden element fist. The golden light was like a golden stormy wave, sweeping up against the sky. Even the void cracked under his fist, forming a dark spatial crack. Bam! The golden fist dispersed the death energy in the sky. Jiu Fei's fist fiercely hit the ancient corpse's chest. A burst of bone-cracking sounds came from the ancient corpse's body. The entire body of the ancient corpse collapsed. A circle of golden ripples, visible to the naked eye, spread out from the ancient corpse's fist. It was unknown how many bones in the ancient corpse's body were broken. This ancient corpse was like a broken bag. It was sent flying thousands of meters away by Jiu Fei's fist. Then, with a boom sound, it exploded. So what if it was the body of an ancient powerhouse? Under the fist of the human race's emperor martial physique, it would still explode. After Jiu Fei blew up the corpse of the ancient powerhouse, he and He Tian continued to move forward. They only had 1 hour. It had to be said that Erebus was simply a genius in the field of formations. His cultivation in formations had definitely reached the level of perfection. Right now, what restricted He Tian was his cultivation and strength. If he had enough cultivation and strength, he would probably be able to set up a complete extreme Dao sacred formation. He Tian successfully found the weak point of this dangerous place. They followed this path for another 300 meters, but the hanging coffins on both sides of the mountain walls did not move at all. This guy could already see that in ancient times, Someone wanted to use this layout to cultivate to become an undead immortal. This was a heaven-defying method that could allow corpses to regenerate intelligence and cultivate to become immortals. In ancient times, there was a sect that everyone loathed and hated. It was considered an evil sect. This sect was the corpse refining sect. The corpse refining sect was an evil sect. The reason why people hated it was because the people of this sect searched for corpses everywhere. They even secretly dug up people's ancestral graves. The people of this sect could refine corpses into zombie corpses and control them at will. If this sect's cultivation technique was cultivated to the highest level, they could even become one with corpses. Back then, the graveyards of various major forces were visited by people from this sect. The people of this sect really did find a holy corpse and refined it into the sect's ultimate killing weapon. It was precisely because the people of the corpse refining sect dug up people's ancestral graves everywhere that they incurred the wrath of the heavens and the resentment of the people. Therefore, on a dark night, the experts of various major forces from ancient times joined forces to break through the mountain gate of this sect and slaughter everyone in this sect. In that battle, blood flowed like a river. No one knew how many people died. The holy corpse of the corpse refining sect showed its might and killed no less than 10 powerful existences. In the end, it was a human race saint who took action to suppress the holy corpse. In the end, the battle ended with the destruction of the corpse refinement faction. This can't be the place where the corpse refining sect nurtures corpses, right? The more Erebus thought about it, the more shocked he became. To use the 9 Heavens Hidden Dragon grounds as a graveyard, this kind of extravagance was already unbelievable. It should be known that the 9 Heavens Hidden Dragon grounds was a peerless treasure ground. No one would be willing to turn a peerless treasure ground into a place of death and use the hidden dragon chi to nourish the corpses, causing the aura of death here to be vast and mighty. The corpse refining sect. Jiu Fei couldn't help but be startled. This was the first time he had heard of such a sect. Although he had refined Li Xuandao's soul memory, he didn't remember all of Li Xuandao's memories. Moreover, the corpse refinement sect was an ancient sect that had been destroyed since ancient times. It had disappeared for countless years. Even if there were people who managed to escape, the foundation of the sect had already been destroyed. There was no way for them to make a comeback. This is an evil sect from the ancient times. They cultivated the so-called Supreme Corpse Tao. This sect has long been destroyed, and I suspect that this is their place to nurture corpses. Erebus pondered for a moment, then said in an incomparably solemn tone, "Place to nurture corpses." Jiu Fei was very surprised. There was actually someone who used the 9th Heaven Hidden Dragon as a place to nurture corpses. It can't be, right? This is too much of a waste of God's gifts. This is like destroying a pitilessly precious place. Boom. Bang. The coffins on the mountain wall suddenly exploded. 2 corpses with monstrous aura of death rushed out from the coffins. The aura emitted by these 2 corpses was even stronger than the previous one. There was nothing much to say. These evil creatures had no intelligence and only knew how to kill. As long as they sensed the aura of a living person, they would directly pounce on them. These corpses were synonymous with death. They could devour the life essence of any living being. If these corpses were to rush out, the entire heavenly world would be in chaos. Jiu Fei made his move. The flawless 5 elements fist displayed its great power. With just a few punches, he blew these 2 corpses apart. Perhaps only Jiu Fei had the ability to destroy the corpses of ancient almighty existences with his bare hands. However, Gu Fei and Erebus noticed that these 2 ghouls seemed to be even more powerful than the previous one. Their aura of death was even more intense. It was as if they were 2 ghost emperors that had charged out of hell. Chapter 1243. The dangers of the Hidden Dragon ground exceeded the expectations of Jiu Fei and He Tian. On the mountain walls of the 9 mountain ridges, there were dead experts buried. These ancient corpses that had been dead for countless years, but under the nourishment of the hidden dragon earth energy, they turned into corpse devils. 1*1*. This was very similar to the method of an evil sect from the ancient times. This was an ancient corpse raising technique, using the hidden dragon earth energy to nourish the corpses of the fallen experts. After countless years, some of the corpses along with the coffins had decayed, but the majority of the corpses remained and turned into corpse devils that killed all the living beings that dared to intrude into this tomb. This type of corpse devil could sense all life auras, and then it would instinctively attack, devouring the life essence to strengthen its own death energy. Even though He Tian found the weak point of this tomb, this path was still full of danger. On the mountain walls on both sides, there were coffins exploding from time to time, and corpse devils with monstrous death energy jumped out. These corpse devils were mostly human cultivators, ancient corpses that had fallen for an unknown number of years. Some of the ancient corpses' clothes had already decayed. Some of the spirit energy contained in the ancient corpses' divine treasures had also completely disappeared, turning into scrap metal. If they were not immortal materials, they wouldn't be able to survive in this world. Jiyu Fei didn't show mercy. He killed his way in, and the corpse devils of the ancient almighty existences were all crushed by his fist. Unknowingly, an hour had passed. The surroundings were filled with a vast death energy. At this time, Jiyu Fei and He Tian had only traveled 1,000 feet into this tomb. The deeper they went, the more ancient the coffins on the mountain walls became. It was unknown when these coffins were buried here, but one thing was certain: they were all from the ancient era. Someone used the power of the hidden dragon ground to make these coffins immortal. Of course, this was not absolute. Jiyu Fei found that the cave on the mountain wall was empty. Bam! Jiyu Fei punched out, smashing another corpse fiend into pieces. Black corpse liquid splashed in all directions and stained the soil. The soil was corroded by the corpse liquid and small holes appeared on the ground. These holes were all emitting black smoke. With a single glance, one could tell that this black corpse water definitely contained extreme poison. This type of corpse water that was produced from the corporeal body of an ancient great figure was incomparably tyrannical. A single drop could destroy an immortal god. We can't go on like this. We haven't even made it through this graveyard before our time limit is up, Jiyu Fei said. They had only covered a distance of 1,000 zhong in less than 1 hour. That was simply too slow. One should know that they only had 2 hours. Once the time was up, the array pattern imprinted on the cauldron of mountain and river would crumble. Then, the 9 hidden dragon earth veins would sense the cauldron's presence and awaken. At that time, even if Jiyu Fei and the others had heaven-defying means, they would still be in danger. The place of hidden dragon of the 9 heavens was a place that could be said to be heaven-defying to begin with. It was probably impossible to find another place like this in the entire world. After all these years, the 9 dragon earth veins had already given birth to a dragon soul. It was hard to imagine how much energy the 9 dragon earth veins contained. Once such energy exploded, it would definitely be able to destroy the world. Seems like I'll have to use my ultimate move again. He Tian nodded his head. At this speed, they definitely wouldn't be able to make it through the graveyard in time. By now, even though they were already close to the 9 dragons' convergency, they still hadn't seen the heads of the 9 hidden dragons. Once the dragon earth veins had given birth to a dragon soul, the dragon earth veins would gradually transform into the shape of a dragon. The 9 mountain ridges were like 9 giant dragons lying on the ground. The hidden dragon of the 9 heavens. 9 giant dragons. The dragon tail was on the outside, while the head was in the middle. In the middle was the place where the 9 earth dragon chi gathered. If this holy ground had really given birth to something heaven-defying, it would definitely be at the 9 dragons' convergency. The graveyard blocked their way. Anyone who wanted to enter the hidden dragonland would first have to pass through this graveyard if they wanted to enter the 9 dragons' convergency. There were no shortcuts. The person who had set up this trap didn't leave any way out. It was obvious that the 9 dragons' convergency was a forbidden area that no one could enter. What other ultimate moves do you have? Hurry up and use them. Jiyu Fei was getting impatient. He hadn't agreed to enter the saint burial ground in the first place. However, the primordial Emperor Xian was guarding outside. He hadn't fully recovered from the previous battles, so he hadn't returned to his peak condition yet. The primordial Emperor Xian was a half-step immortal sage who cultivated the 9 secrets of the immortal path. Even if he used an extreme path sacred weapon, Jiyu Fei wasn't confident that he could kill Primordial Emperor Xian. He Tian didn't dare to be negligent. He took out the 9 heavens divine jades that had been engraved with formation patterns. 9 pieces of divine jades danced around him. Formation patterns appeared on each piece of divine jade. The 9 pieces of divine jade emitted a dazzling divine light. The 9 pieces of divine jade were frantically devouring the surrounding spiritual qi. The hidden Dragonland qi was attracted and gathered from all directions. The condensed powerful spiritual energy made the 9 pieces of divine jade seem like they were on fire. The divine jade was melting, and only the formation patterns were imprinted in the void. The formation patterns on the 9 pieces of divine jade didn't dissipate. Instead, they turned into 9 beams of divine light of the great path that circled around He Tian. Each beam of divine light emitted terrifying fluctuations. The aura of the great path was vast and mighty. Jiyu Fei couldn't help but change his expression when he sensed the powerful power on the 9 beams of divine light of the great path. He Tian was really amazing. He could actually create such a killing light. This was borrowing the power of the great path of heaven and earth. Such a divine light of the great path could kill a saint. This was the means of a saint, but it was displayed by He Tian with a matrix. Go. He Tian pointed forward with his finger, and the divine light of the great path around him immediately rushed forward. In the divine light, there were looming patterns of the great path. Wherever it passed, there was nothing that could stop it. Go. He Tian rushed forward first. He quickly flew forward along the path opened by the divine light of the great path. How can this work? Jiyu Fei hurriedly chased after him. The divine light of the great path did not rush far before it dissipated in the void. It was obliterated by the death aura of this great tomb. They had only rushed for a dozen miles. In the process, the hanging coffins on both sides of the mountain wall kept exploding, and terrifying corpse devils rushed out. At this time, behind Jiyu Fei and the others, ghostly shadows flickered, and a monstrous death aura surged from behind them. The whole world became gloomy and terrifying, as if it had turned into a part of the hell. The death aura was vast and mighty. Behind Jiyu Fei and the others, there were hundreds of corpse devils rushing toward them. This was the true night of 100 ghosts. The sky and the earth darkened, and pairs of blood-red eyes flashed in the darkness. Boom! The heavens and the earth shook as a corpse that looked like a phoenix charged down from the sky. A powerful aura of death caused visible ripples to form in the void. Swoosh! A second divine light of the great path rushed out from He Tian's hand, opening up another dozen miles of path. Wherever the divine light passed, in the void and on the ground, there were patterns of the great path appearing, and then they were all destroyed by the divine light of the great path. He Tian was forcibly breaking the matrix. In the whole graveyard, countless shrill and terrifying roars sounded. He Tian's method seemed to have alarmed all the ancient corpse devils buried here. At this time, not only the hanging coffins on the ridges on both sides of Jiyu Fei and the others almost all exploded, but the hanging coffins on the other 7 dragon veins were also shaking, as if there would be corpse devils breaking out of the coffins at any time. Jiyu Fei and He Tian rushed for another dozen miles, and the divine light of the great path disappeared in the void again. This graveyard was not simple. The void and the ground were all imprinted with matrix patterns by masters. Therefore, no matter where Jiyu Fei and He Tian walked, they would touch these matrix patterns and alarm the corpse devils on both sides of the mountain wall. The death aura behind them was vast and mighty, and there were hundreds of corpse devils rushing toward Jiyu Fei and He Tian, making Jiyu Fei and He Tian's scalp tingle. A huge black shadow rushed out from the black fog behind them, and a gust of wind blew from behind them, causing them to feel an eerie chill. Both Jiyu Fei and He Tian felt danger. A strange beast that looked like a phoenix and was shrouded in death qi pounced at them from behind. Powerful death qi spread out from the strange beast's body, shaking the void. Damn! This is definitely a corpse devil at the half-saint level. He Tian's expression changed on the spot. The strange beast that looked like a phoenix was extremely powerful, and it seemed to have some vague consciousness. Ji Yufei and He Tian both sensed an extremely weak soul fluctuation from this corpse devil, which made Ji Yufei and He Tian feel incredulous. This corpse devil that looked like a phoenix seemed to have signs of reforming its spiritual soul. This is really nature-defying. Ji Yufei was incomparably shocked. At this moment, the zombie had already rushed over. He quickly made a move and pressed his palm forward. A huge golden palm condensed in the void. Bam! Ji Yufei's huge hand collided with the corpse devil's claws, and the corpse devil was sent flying into the black fog. Ji Yufei also felt a strong force coming from his hand, and he actually took a step back. What? Seeing this, He Tian could not help but be shocked. It should be known that Ji Yufei's physical body was so strong that it was absolutely invincible among those at the same level. With a punch, even the physical body of a mighty figure would be destroyed. This strange beast that looked like a phoenix seemed to have an extremely strong physical body, and it could fight against Ji Yufei head-on. Could it be that this corpse fiend is a real divine beast phoenix? Ji Yufei was also very surprised, but there was no time for him to think too much, because at this time, terrifying corpse devils had already surrounded them from all directions. He Tian did not dare to hesitate. He shot out the third divine light of the Great Path, and at this time, a figure appeared in front of him. Then, the figure blasted out a punch, and directly shattered He Tian's indestructible divine light of the Great Path. Chapter 1244. The third beam of divine light of the Great Path that Mahakala had unleashed was actually dispersed by a single punch. This caused both Ji Yufei and Mahakala to suck in a breath of cold air. A powerful aura surged toward them from the front. The figure in the black fog was like an ancient mountain, standing in front of them, blocking the way of Ji Yufei and He Tian. What is this? He Tian's voice trembled. He dared to use his body to resist the divine light of the Great Path. Such an existence must have a saint-level body, which was unbelievably strong. Ji Yufei felt a familiar fluctuation. The figure in front of him seemed to have some connection with him, which made his body produce a trace of the same feeling. What's going on? Ji Yufei couldn't help but feel incredulous. He felt the same power and aura. Could it be that the figure in front of him was actually an indestructible martial body? Bang! 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 The sound of heavy footsteps could be heard. Ji Yufei and the rest could feel the ground beneath their feet trembling along with the sound of the footsteps, giving them an extremely strong sense of oppression. The zombies approaching Ji Yufei and He Tian from all directions seemed to feel the aura of the existence in front of them and didn't dare to come closer. Roar! Shrill and terrifying roars sounded from the surrounding black fog. Terrifying figures loomed in the black fog, revealing a heart-palpitating aura of death. Could it be a corpse emperor? He Tian's expression changed. The land of Hidden Dragon was used as a graveyard, and the dragon chi of the earth was used to nourish the corpses. It was not strange at all for a corpse emperor to appear in such a place. The black fog that was condensed by the death chi was rolling, and a figure walked out of the black fog. This is, when they saw the zombie walking out of the black fog, Ji Yufei and He Tian's hearts beat wildly. This was a very strange ancient corpse. Half of the ancient corpse's body was shining with a golden light, as if it was cast from pure gold. The golden blood energy was vast and mighty. It was actually the purest golden true power, while the other half was as black as ink, with a vast deathly aura. How could this be? Ji Yufei and He Tian were both dumbstruck. This ancient corpse was truly too strange. His fleshly body still retained the gold true power contained within. However, half of the corpse's body had been corroded by the power of death. Immortal body? As soon as He Tian saw this ancient corpse, his entire body became cold. This was the legendary immortal martial body that had been cultivated to the great accomplishment realm. Where did the corpse refining faction find such an ancient corpse? Wasn't this too heaven-defying? Ji Yufei and He Tian were both dumbfounded. No wonder this ancient corpse could disperse the divine light of the Great Path with a single punch. This ancient corpse itself was a divine weapon in human form. The saint-level immortal martial body could be said to be indestructible and difficult to be buried. Even if the divine soul had been destroyed, the flesh was still preserved, almost undamaged. What should we do? Ji Fei said in a deep voice, his face extremely solemn. This was really an immortal martial body, and the immortal martial body had the power of the martial path, which made Ji Fei's martial body produce a strange reaction. Although countless years had passed, and the martial path source of the immortal martial body was only half corroded by the power of death, there was still a vast power of the martial path source inside the immortal martial body. What else can we do? We can only escape. He Tian began to move backward, but the immortal body in front of him took a step forward and directly pressed forward. The mighty aura emitted from its body caused the void to tremble. This was a divine weapon in human form. How could they still fight? The left eye of the ancient corpse emperor flickered with golden light, but the right eye was pitch black, and the pupil could not be seen. It was like a bottomless devil's cave. Just a glance was enough to make one's mind tremble, and their divine soul was almost sucked into that black hole. The nearby zombies all retreated to the distance and did not dare to come close. Roar! The ancient corpse emperor roared to the sky, and his voice shook the vast sky. The entire area shook. Golden true power surged out from half of the body, dispersing all the black fog and death aura outside of the left side of the body. However, the right side of the ancient corpse emperor was filled with a mighty death aura, and the black fog and death aura swept out, covering half of the sky. Such a scene, Ji Fei and He Tian had never seen or heard of it before, and they were extremely shocked. Martial path true power and the power of death were in the same body. It was too incredible. Go! Ji Fei used the mountain and river cauldron to protect himself and He Tian. He immediately used the 8 desolate steps and turned around to escape. This ancient corpse emperor was going to be powerful, and if they didn't leave now, it would be a tragedy. However, at this time, it was not the time for them to escape. Bang! The ancient corpse emperor blasted out a fist, and the entire heaven and earth shook. The unparalleled fist energy instantly shrouded the entire sky and sealed Ji Fei and He Tian inside. Damn it! Ji Fei couldn't help but change his expression. This ancient corpse emperor seemed to be much more powerful than he had imagined. Moreover, the martial path source contained within the immortal martial body was too powerful. The ancient corpse emperor's fist made Ji Fei feel as if the entire world was going to be destroyed. This kind of power, he simply couldn't contend against it. However, Ji Fei had the mountain and river cauldron to protect him. Buzz! Ji Fei activated the mountain and river cauldron, and with a rumbling sound, a visible ripple spread out from the mountain and river cauldron, directly breaking the ancient corpse emperor's fist energy. The primal chaos aura fell from the mountain and river cauldron and wrapped around Ji Fei and He Tian. They escaped from the ancient corpse emperor's fist energy and escaped this calamity. Boom! The ancient corpse emperor's fist fell, and the place where Ji Fei and He Tian were just now was immediately penetrated by this fist. The void collapsed, and this side of the world turned into a mass of chaos. Swish! He Tian raised his hand and shot out the 4th divine light of the great path at the ancient corpse emperor behind him. The divine light soared for thousands of feet like a peerless heavenly sword. It broke through the void of heaven and earth and penetrated the ancient corpse emperor. The ancient corpse emperor instinctively pressed his palm forward. Bang! There was a loud sound, and the ancient corpse emperor's palm directly collided with the divine light of the great path. The divine light of the great path that was powerful enough to slay a saint was actually blocked by a palm. If it was any other time, Ji Fei and He Tian would never have thought that there would be someone with a physical body that could directly confront the power of the great path. The immortal martial body of this ancient corpse emperor was too powerful. On the path of martial arts, cultivating to the highest realm, was it to trample the great path of heaven and earth under one's feet? The immortal martial body could actually ignore the power of the great path, which made Ji Fei dumbfounded. The mountain and river cauldron wrapped Ji Fei and He Tian and quickly rushed back the way they came. The appearance of the immortal martial body had already made it impossible for Ji Fei and He Tian to enter this dangerous place again. Ji Fei's extreme 8 steps was absolutely unrivaled in the world. However, what made Ji Fei's heart cold was that the ancient corpse emperor actually took large strides to catch up. The speed of the ancient corpse emperor was actually not slower than Ji Fei's extreme 8 steps. Moreover, the gap between the two was rapidly shrinking, and the ancient corpse emperor was getting closer and closer. Too abnormal. It has been dead for so many years, but it is still so terrifying. He Tian saw this scene and couldn't help but exclaim. A saint-level warrior was so powerful that it made people's hearts palpitate. Being invincible within the same realm wasn't a legend, nor was it a lie. As a saint, the immortal martial body was absolutely an invincible existence, and its battle strength could be said to be number one in the saint realm. A distance of several dozen miles was a distance that Ji Yufei could cross in an instant, but the corpse devils in front of him were constantly pouncing at him, causing Ji Yufei's speed to slow down by quite a bit. Especially that corpse devil that looked like a phoenix. Its two wings flapped, causing a sudden gale, and sand and stones to fly everywhere. From time to time, it would pounce down from the sky, its sharp claws constantly tearing at Ji Yufei and He Tian. The mountain and river cauldron shook, and that corpse devil that looked like a phoenix was constantly being shaken away. However, it had to be said that this corpse devil's physical body was also incomparably powerful. It was being shaken away by the mountain and river cauldron, but its physical realm wasn't broken into pieces. The physical body of a divine beast was probably only at this level. Among all the corpse devils, besides the corpse devil that looked like a phoenix, there were also many incomparably powerful corpse devils. Several corpse devils formed from the corpses of half-saints also appeared nearby. Bang! Just as Ji Yufei and He Tian were about to rush out of this graveyard, the ancient corpse emperor behind them also caught up. A golden hand descended from the sky and directly slammed down on Ji Yufei and He Tian. Rumble! The golden hand was like a golden mountain descending from the sky, shaking heaven and earth. The void below the hand was filled with pitch-black spatial cracks. This wasn't a divine ability, nor was it a grand art of the immortal Tao. This was the purest gold martial Tao true force. Just one palm had already surpassed those so-called divine ability-killing art. Buzz! The mountain and river cauldron was shaking. The ancient corpse emperor's palm actually shook the mountain and river cauldron. The primal chaos energy was vast, and the ancient runes on the mountain and river cauldron began to condense. The martial Tao true force in Ji Yufei's body was unceasingly being absorbed by the mountain and river cauldron. Activating the mountain and river cauldron required a huge amount of true force. Even Ji Yufei felt a wave of exhaustion. Boom! The mountain and river cauldron soared into the sky and collided with the descending golden hand. The golden hand dissipated in the void, and the mountain and river cauldron smashed it into pieces. Just like this, Ji Yufei and He Tian were able to rush out of the graveyard. Roar! The ancient corpse emperor was roaring, but it seemed like it couldn't leave the graveyard. It was only roaring inside and didn't rush out. This made Ji Yufei and He Tian secretly sigh in relief. Other than being shocked, Ji Yufei and He Tian were very curious. How was this ancient corpse emperor bound to this graveyard and couldn't leave? There was no doubt now. This corpse nurturing ground was most likely the corpse nurturing ground of the ancient evil sect, the corpse refining sect. In the ancient era, the various sects worked together to break through the corpse refining sect's mountain gate and annihilate its Tao teachings. However, the experts of the ancient sects couldn't find the corpse nurturing ground. However, no one could have imagined that the corpse refining sect's corpse nurturing grounds would actually appear outside the land of Saint Burial, blocking the entrance to it. Did someone use a great divine ability to move the corpse refining sect's corpse nurturing ground here? Or did someone from the corpse refining sect move their corpse nurturing ground here? No one knows the great secret of the ancient times. Chapter 1245. Roar. The ancient corpse emperor's roar shook the entire area. Countless corpses that escaped from the coffins were kneeling, and even the Phoenix corpse emperor was no exception. Countless corpses were kneeling to their emperor. This scene made one's scalp go numb. Ji Yufei and He Tian were flabbergasted. The corpses that didn't have any intelligence were instinctively afraid of the ancient corpse emperor. The corpse emperor was incomparably powerful. The left side of its body shone with a resplendent golden light like a vast and mighty golden ocean, emitting endless martial Tao true force. Golden true force. This is a supreme martial artist that cultivated the metal element grand Tao. Ji Yufei had obtained the inheritance of the martial ancestor, And he was very clear that the Tao passed down by the martial ancestor was not a single Tao. What kind of Tao one could comprehend at the final juncture would depend on the person's luck. 5 elements, yin and yang, all of them could achieve the Tao. This is an indestructible golden body. He Tian's eyes flickered. The corpse emperor in front of him was truly terrifying. The martial Tao source contained in its body was actually still so powerful after countless years of wear and tear. It was truly hard to imagine how the corpse refinement sect obtained this indestructible golden body. In the ancient era, there was no news of a supreme martial artist that had cultivated the indestructible golden body falling. Even in the ancient era, there weren't many martial artists that were successful in their cultivation. The cultivation path opened by the martial ancestor was truly too difficult. Breaking all divine abilities with one's strength and achieving the sage realm with one's body, how many people in this world could achieve this? If I can obtain the martial Tao source in this indestructible golden body. Jiyu Fei's heart trembled. The indestructible martial body contained boundless martial Tao true force, and it was of the same origin as the martial Tao true force he cultivated. If he could draw out such power from the indestructible golden body and absorb it, then his cultivation would definitely make a breakthrough. Power of the same origin could be used without any deliberate refinement. Jiyu Fei was very clear that if he could obtain the martial Tao source in this indestructible golden body, he would most likely be able to break through to the almighty realm. It doesn't seem impossible to suppress this corpse emperor. He Tian seemed to be deep in thought, and then said something like this. His background was mysterious, and he seemed to have mastered many great techniques. Even Jiyu Fei couldn't see through him after spending so much time with him. What? You have a way? Jiyu Fei was overjoyed when he heard this. After a series of battles, his cultivation showed signs of breaking through. If he could obtain the martial Tao source energy in this corpse emperor's body, he might be able to attract the heavenly tribulation to temper his martial body and break through his current cultivation shackles. The cauldron of mountain and river can suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earths. If the cauldron of mountain and river can display a trace of the power of an extreme saint, let alone an indestructible golden body, even an indestructible martial saint can be suppressed. He Tian stared at the mountain and river cauldron floating above Jiyu Fei's head, his eyes glistening. Even I can't activate the mountain and river cauldron to display the power of an extreme saint. It seems that this path won't work, Jiyu Fei said. He was very clear about the consequences of activating the mountain and river cauldron to display the power of an extreme saint. Unless it was a life and death situation, Jiyu Fei would never do this because it was too dangerous. If he was not careful, his own power would be forcibly devoured by the mountain and river cauldron. With my help, nothing is impossible. He Tian was very confident. There were 5 divine lights of the great path dancing around him. He was like a 9 heavens celestial emperor with a trace of an otherworldly aura. 4 of the 9 divine lights of the great path were used, and there were still 5 divine lights circling around He Tian. These were divine lights of the great path condensed from countless divine materials and the essence of heaven and earth. They could kill saints. This guy could even use the power of the great path to activate the formation. It seemed that he could really use this guy to revive the extreme saint weapon and suppress the ancient corpse emperor inside. Thinking of this, Jiyu Fei's breathing couldn't help but quicken. Once the mountain and river cauldron is revived, let alone the 9 heavens hidden dragon grid, even the 9 true ancient heavenly dragons will be suppressed. If that happens, wouldn't the things inside the hidden dragonland be easy to obtain? He Tian's eyes were shining. You're really unreliable. If you had such a method, would we still have needed to take the risk to enter the corpse nurturing land? Jiyu Fei couldn't help being a bit irritated. Haha, boss, I'm really sorry. I just had a sudden inspiration and thought of this method, laughed He Tian. Jiyu Fei was a bit speechless. This guy was really asking for a beating. At this time, there was still less than an hour before the corner of the extreme Tao formation that He Tian had imprinted on the mountain and river cauldron would dissipate. Boss, bring out some divine materials, said He Tian to Jiyu Fei. As a miser, He Tian had already used up a huge pile of divine materials before entering this tomb. Even if he still had more, He wouldn't be willing to bring them out. Ji Fei glanced at He Tian and didn't say anything. He directly reached out and slashed at the void in front of him. A spatial crack immediately appeared in front of him. Whoosh! A huge pile of divine materials poured out of the spatial crack. The surrounding area was immediately filled with spiritual qi and treasure light. All sorts of divine materials were piled up into a small mountain. 5-colored stone, chaotic earth, God King blood jade, 9 heavens pure gold. I've struck it rich. He Tian was drooling when he saw this pile of divine materials. He forcefully swallowed a few times, his voice trembling as he spoke. These divine materials were all extremely rare. Usually, it was hard to even see a single one of them. They were incomparably precious. But to Ji Fei, he had quite a few of these divine materials. He had refined Li Xuandao's inner world and received all of Li Xuandao's belongings, including countless rare divine materials. My ass. These things aren't for you. Ji Fei said angrily. Li Xuandao was an inheritor of the immortal Dao who was trapped in the Hell Dao during the great changes of the world in the late Desolate Era. The divine materials he had collected over the years could be described as piling up like a mountain. Just the pile of divine materials in front of He Tian was already comparable to a peerless divine treasury. Haha, boss, since you're so generous, then I'll do it. He Tian was very excited. With the help of these divine materials, he was absolutely confident that he could revive the mountain and river cauldron. At this time, the ancient corpse emperor was still guarding inside the tomb like an insurmountable mountain, giving off a powerful sense of oppression. It seemed that the ancient corpse emperor couldn't come out of the corpse breeding ground. Otherwise, Ji Fei's group would have already escaped without a trace. How would they dare to stay outside the corpse breeding ground? He Tian was inexplicably excited as if he had been injected with chicken blood. He immediately began to brand formation runes on the ground and in the void. As He Tian laid down more and more formation runes, the pile of divine materials began to emit a dazzling divine light that dispersed the black mist of death in the surrounding. The spiritual energy emitted from the divine materials gradually converged into a wave of psionic energy. The energy fluctuations grew stronger and stronger, forming a ball of divine light above the pile of divine materials. Countless streams of spirit energy were drawn from the pile of divine materials below, forming beams of colorful spirit light that constantly merged with the divine light above. That ball of divine light was like a bright moon, and it seemed to be nurturing a Dao charm. This made Ji Fei feel a bit incredulous. It seemed that only immortal divine materials contained Dao fragments. Could it be that ordinary divine materials also contained Dao fragments? In Ji Fei's view, as long as it wasn't an immortal divine material, it was an ordinary divine material. He Tian was using the power of the formation to refine the vast spiritual energy contained in this large pile of divine materials. The divine light soared into the sky. In the end, that ball of divine light was like a divine sun that appeared in the sky, illuminating the dark world. What is that? Outside the hidden Dragonland, the ancient Emperor Xian sensed a wave of psionic energy that made his face change. It came from the depths of the area in front of him. After half an hour, a ball of divine light rose from the ground in front of him and illuminated the surroundings. This shocked the ancient Emperor Xian. It was a ball of divine light condensed from endless spiritual energy. What is going on inside? The ancient Emperor Xian was bewildered. He had vaguely guessed that those two brats must have entered the depths of this area and touched something, causing some kind of change in this area. The ancient Emperor Xian would never have thought that all of this was because of He Tian. He wanted to condense endless psionic energy to awaken the mountain and river cauldron and display the extreme divine might that could suppress the 9 heavens and 10 earth. Rumble, the divine sun shone in all directions, and the entire region shook. Each of the rare divine materials contained a huge amount of spiritual energy. The spiritual energy formed by the gathering of the spiritual energy of a large pile of rare divine materials was absolutely terrifying and powerful. Even a half-saint would be annihilated by this ball of divine light. The 9 huge mountain ridges were shaking, and the sleeping dragon's soul seemed to show signs of awakening under the impact of the energy ball of light. A dragon-shaped killing light rushed over from a distance. The 9 dragons' killing intent appeared. This was the saint-level killing intent that condensed the killing intent of the 9 dragons. It flashed and was about to slash at the ball of divine light in the sky. At this time, Jiu Fei made his move. Swish! A purple-gold divine light rushed out from his dantian and clashed with the killing intent of the 9 dragons. The 2 divine lights instantly tangled together. "Boss, it's up to you." Hei Tian sat cross-legged in a large array, and his clothes were already soaked in sweat. Countless array patterns were flickering on the ground and in the void. The pile of divine materials in the center of the array had all turned into dust, and all the spiritual energy had been sucked out. All right. At this time, Jiu Fei didn't hesitate and activated the mountain and river cauldron. An ancient cauldron soared into the sky and emitted boundless primordial chaos chi. During this process, the cauldron grew to the size of a small mountain, and the mouth of the cauldron produced a heaven-devouring power that devoured the ball of divine light in the sky. Without any suspense, the ball of divine light in the sky was devoured by the mountain and river cauldron. Buzz! The moment the mountain and river cauldron devoured the ball of divine light, there was a sudden tremor from the mountain and river cauldron, and an extremely terrifying fluctuation came from the mountain and river cauldron. The mountain and river cauldron has awakened.